He gets off Iwo Jima, he goes to Guam, then he gets sent back to the West Coast. And basically, they put them on a train to Chicago. And like once you got to Chicago, you were just sort of cut loose. It was like, okay, find your way home.
Yeah.
He lives in Pennsylvania. So he had to like get a ride from someone to get back to Pennsylvania. And then he shared a cab with a couple of guys so that they could get home. He gets home in the middle of the night and like knocks on his wife's window and is like, oh, I'm home.
That's it.
I mean, when you think about that, right, and you think about now, you're waiting for a plane, right, and they say, like, all veterans, please board first, thank you so much for your service. I mean, it has changed so dramatically, and I'm so grateful for it, and I think that, these heroes were so humble in World War II, and they still are today, but I'm grateful that we give them more open recognition and thanks.
What's interesting is it's the last war that in modern war where there was clearly good guys and bad guys.
Absolutely.
Because there was really no argument. Oh, I'm pro-fascist. Oh, I'm a Nazi. I'm a white supremacist. I mean, are you kidding? I mean, you clearly were. They could have worn all black. It would have been accurate. Because even today, the Germans are embarrassed about what happened. They don't even acknowledge it. The Japanese say we're friends. We turn the page. We don't even want a military. Afterwards, we didn't even let them have a military afterwards.
That's right.
And we went right from that war to the Cold War.
Yeah, and one of the things that's really cool is when I went to Iwo Jima, it was for the reunion of honor. You can only get onto the island of Iwo Jima one day a year for about 6 hours. The Japanese open the island. They allow people to come look and, historians, veterans, families. And they have a reunion of honor, and it's a ceremony, a memorial ceremony for both sides. Japanese dignitaries in top hats and ties, and Americans on the other side of this memorial service. And they remember on both sides because both sides recognize how much was lost. Tens of thousands of people on that island, and it was a tragedy.
Wow. The name of the book is Unknown Valor, the story of family courage and sacrifice. Most importantly, it's done by Martha McCallum, and as she mentioned, it's worth noting that it's her story, but it's really our story, the American story. And you have marching orders. She gave them to you, and she wants you to follow through.
Thank you.
Go down, download the book. If you're like me, I like to read them on my iPad. But if not, go grab it. You will not regret it. Martha, thanks so much. Congratulations.
Thank you, Ryan.
If you're ready to refinance to today's incredibly low mortgage rates, I want to tell you a little secret before you get started. Choose the leader who's in it for you. Like my friends at American Financing, they are honest. They're family-owned mortgage banker with the dedicated mortgage consultants as well. So they put your needs first. They don't charge upfront fees. They're not going to reset or set you back to a 30-year mortgage if you don't want. Instead, they'll customize a loan to achieve your financial goals. They've been helping people just like you for over 20 years, buying homes, refinancing mortgages, even consolidating debt. Their customer service especially, is the reason why they have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. So it's worth seeing what they have for you and what they can do for you and your family. Even if you recently bought a home, you may still qualify for a lower rate. So call American Financing now, 866-721-3300. That's 866-721-3300, or online at AmericanFinancing.net. That's American Financing, NMLS, 182-334-NMLS, ConsumerAccess.org.
Hey, Las Vegas, let's face it, banks don't lend money anymore, and payday loan companies charge too much. Nobody has you covered like the DLC with our signature loans up to $5,000 in less than 30 minutes. Really?
Dollar Loan Center. Dollar Loan Center. Dollar Loan Center.
Dollar Loan Center's been in business for more than 20 years and has over 250,000 customers for a reason. We're quick, inexpensive, safe, regulated, friendly, and have a cool jingle. Your loan company charges too much, and we can't wait to show you how easy it is at the DLC and how much you can save. Get up to $5,000 in minutes without a checking account and absolutely no collateral required like at the other companies. It's 100% free to apply, and there's no penalties if you pay off your loan early. We have over 50 locations and give you up to a year to pay back your loan.
Licensed by the Data Financial Institutions Division. Customer must meet the normal loan qualifications. To review loan qualifications, visit us at don'tbebroke.com. Certain limitations may apply. Loans are subject to approval.
Your home for Sean Hannity. KDWN Las Vegas. KKLZ HD2 Las Vegas. A Beasley Media Group station.
Preparing for worst. I'm Mike Moss. As the coronavirus becomes a worldwide problem, health correspondent Dr. Sanjay Gupta says there are some things you can do to stay healthy.
Avoid sick people, wash your hands often, try not to touch surfaces, disinfect areas that may have been contaminated.
Dr. Anthony Fauci, the head of the National Institute for Infectious Diseases, says preparation is the key at this stage.
Things are stable here, which they are. And at the same time, we need to be ready to do things to contain an outbreak if it were to occur.
White House correspondent Jeremy Diamond reports the president will join with the CDC in addressing the nation about the virus later today.
This is the message that we heard from the director of the CDC's National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Diseases. She said yesterday, we expect we will see community spread in this country. It's not so much a question of if this will happen anymore, but rather more a question of exactly when this will happen and how many people in this country will have severe illness. Disruption to everyday life may be severe.
House Speaker Pelosi dismisses the president's comments on the virus being contained.
I don't think the president knows what he's talking about, once again.
Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer is looking to triple the administration request for emergency funding to combat the virus. Japanese government officials are recommending people work from home to slow the spread of the virus there. Correspondent Will Ripley's in Tokyo.
To give you a sense of how seriously Japan is taking this is a country with a salaryman culture where people are expected to come to the office and sit in the office for very long hours, Monday through Friday, Monday through Saturday. Japan is actually advising people, and this is a tectonic shift. They're telling people they should work from home.
The Boston Red Sox have imposed a self-quarantine of a player from Taiwan. He'll be kept away from the other players for 14 days as a precaution. After 3 losing sessions, stocks are up today. The Dow up 224 points. I'm Mike.
This report sponsored by your Southern Nevada Chevy dealer. An accident with injuries reported Desert Inn at Lindell Road. Also, police and fire on scene for another injury crash at Jones southbound at the 215 Southern Beltway. And an accident on Spencer, just north of St. Rose Parkway. That's affecting north and southbound. Meanwhile, a nice recovery underway on the 95 in the West Valley. Only light slowing remains between Craig Road to about Lake Mead Boulevard, and then we're done. Still heavy slowing on 15 northbound, approaching the Southern Beltway up to Flamingo. Celebrate President's Day at your Southern Nevada Chevy dealer and choose from great cashback release offers or even low APR financing. Hurry to a Southern Nevada Chevy dealer and drive away in a new Chevrolet. John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
It's open enrollment season, and MediShare is the Christian healthcare sharing ministry that saves most families about $500 a month. Google MediShare and see if it's a fit for you. MediShare, healthcare you can believe in.
I'm Jim Snyder.
And I'm Marie Mortera. We want to thank you for making News 3 your #1 choice for news.
Every weeknight at 11, you can count on us to have the big story of the day.
Plus breaking news that matters to you.
Jim Snyder and Marie Mortera. News 3 live at 11.
For over 20 years, Wheel of Fortune slots have paid out more than $3 billion in jackpots and made over 1,000 millionaires. Play Wheel of Fortune today.
Wheel of Fortune is a registered trademark of Caliphone Production Incorporated. All rights reserved.
Regaining control of your drinking doesn't have to mean uncomfortable group settings or the unrealistic expectation of sobriety. Meet LifeBack, a physician-approved, completely private, app-based program designed for those who want to cut back on drinking without having to quit completely. Using a combination of medication proven in clinical studies to reduce the urge to overdrink in 92% of people and in-app coaching and support tools, LifeBack makes drinking a choice rather than a habit or a need. Every aspect of your LifeBack plan is managed on our mobile app from the privacy of your phone, and medication is delivered directly to your doorstep without the need for in-person doctor appointments. Start the LifeBack program now and treat yourself to sharper focus, better health, stronger relationships, and saved money while still enjoying moderate drinking. Visit lifebac.com. That's lifebac.com. Get your life back today with LifeBack. Visit lifebac.com.
Listen to the Texas Corners Bible Church every Saturday night at 11 p.m. and Sunday night at 10 p.m. on 101.5 FM, 720 a.m. KDON. Looking for a new job? Meet face-to-face with dozens of great companies at the LasVegasJobs.com Job Fair. Thursday, February 27th at the Texas Station from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. This is your opportunity to meet with some of the best employers in the Valley, offering hundreds of real jobs. Be sure to dress for success, bring lots of resumes, and be ready to apply for your new job. You can go to LasVegasJobs.com now to print your VIP pass. Find your new job Thursday, February 27th at the Texas Station from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. For more info, go to LasVegasJobs.com. That's LasVegasJobs.com.
This is what Flo from Progressive sounds like in one of our many hilarious commercials.
And basic motorcycle policies start at just $75 a year. I know, right? Do you think I say I know right too often? I do. I know, right? I have to stop, don't I? I know.
And this is what that same commercial sounds like on your motorcycle. Yeah, leave Even our commercials are better on a bike. Progressive keeps you on yours. Get a quote in as little as 3 minutes at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Annual premium for basic liability policy not available in all states.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit beefy, or even with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Affordable term life insurance is out there. Call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-481-1458. 800-481-1458 or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too.
1015 FM, 720 AM, KDON, the talk of Las Vegas. The opinions of the hosts on KDWN are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group. Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
What's up, Las Vegas? So glad you could join us. Happy Hump Day. It is Wednesday. It is Vegas Take Time. Sharp and Shapiro, glad you could join us. Oh boy, do we have a lot to get to today. Did you get a chance to watch the Democratic debate last night? If you didn't, oh, don't worry. I'll give you some of the highlights of it. It's funny. A lot of funny moments in the debate last night and some sad moments too. The moderators just sucked. Gayle King was awful. We'll get to all that coming up here in a few minutes. This is going to be really interesting coming up here in hour number 2. It just so happens, and you know, not to sound like Rush Limbaugh and surprise all of you, but yes, Pete Buttigieg happens to be gay, if you didn't know that. I just wanted to inform all of my listeners. Pastor Rhyan Glesman is Pete Buttigieg's brother-in-law, and he is flat out called Buttigieg a sinner, and he's going to be joining us in hour number 2. This is his brother-in-law. The guy is running for president of the United States, and his brother-in-law is making appearances on Fox News, calling out Pete Buttigieg for being gay and being a sinner. I can't wait to talk to this guy. He'll be coming up in hour number 2, Pastor Rhyan Glesman. Crazy story coming out of Oklahoma. We're going to get to that coming up later on in the program. Oklahoma girls basketball team is speaking out after an announcer calls their names disgusting on the PA system. This is a wild and crazy story. We will get to that coming up in hour number 3. UNLV senior night tonight against Boise State, coming off of an enormous win, arguably one of the biggest wins they've had in the last decade when they beat San Diego State on the road. Senior night tonight, they're back at home playing against a pretty good basketball team in Boise State, so we'll get to that coming up in hour number 3. But I want to get right to the debate and everything that took place last night. It was a CBS debate, and if you were wondering who the moderators were, they were Norah O'Donnell and Gayle King. We will get to all that stuff coming up here in a few minutes, but for no surprise, right? No surprise to anybody. You know, Bernie Sanders is the front runner, and because he's the front runner, everybody is going after him on that stage. Everybody is attacking him. So here's kind of like a little bit of a montage of Bernie Sanders getting attacked on the debate stage last night. Here it is.
Vladimir Putin thinks that Donald Trump should be president of the United States, and that's why Russia is helping you get elected, so
Mr.
you'll lose to him.
Bernie and I agree on a lot of things, but I think I would make a better president than Bernie.
You think the last 4 years has been chaotic, divisive, toxic, exhausting? Imagine spending the better part of 2020 with Bernie Sanders versus Donald Trump.
Bernie Sanders' analysis is right. The difference is I don't like his solutions.
Bernie voted 5 times against the Brady bill.
I'm hearing my name mentioned a little bit tonight. I wonder why.
Well, I think that the answer is pretty obvious. Again, Bernie Sanders is the front runner, so you're going to have all those candidates up there on the stage attacking him. Now, they have some legitimate reasons for attacking him, and I'll get back to that, because there are plenty of them, including his comments about Fidel Castro, putting him in the Colin Kaepernick category of praising people that are evil, murderous dictators. So they certainly have a point there. I think some of the attacks were unfair. Some of them were legitimate. But there was a moment in the debate yesterday which I thought was a little bit ridiculous, a little bit funny, a little bit sad. So all the candidates were asked, what is the biggest misconception about you? And what is your motto? And I think because of this, you got a really good sense of who they are as far as their personality goes. What were they going to say? Were they going to say something really bad about a misconception? So I want to start with Tom Steyer. By the way, Tom Steyer is a guy that shouldn't even be up there on the stage. Listen, I respect the guy. He started with nothing. He's made billions of dollars. He's obviously an extremely intelligent guy. I think he cares about minorities. He's done a lot for minorities in his lifetime. He's very passionate about that. And there was a moment in the debate yesterday where Joe Biden went after Steyer for that, and I thought Biden was way out of line. Steyer is a passionate guy when it comes to helping African Americans and other minorities. And I think he's a good guy. I'm not going to go on here and say that he's not a good guy. But Steyer has no chance to win. He should not be on that stage. And the reason why I say that is because there's too many people trying to talk. And Steyer is taking time away. He's doing an injustice, I guess, or a disservice to the Democratic Party when you're on that stage and you know there's no chance that you win. The only reason why you're on that stage is ego. And I think Tom Steyer has a big ego. He shouldn't be on the stage. But I'm going to start with Steyer here. He was asked, what is your misconception and what is your motto? Here's what he had to say.
The biggest misconception about me is that somehow I'm defined by business success and money.
Okay, and your motto?
To tell the truth and do what's right no matter what.
Okay, so the motto makes a lot of sense, but what do you mean? How else are we going to define you? We don't know a lot about you. The only reason why you're on that stage is because of your business success. How is that a misconception? The guy is a billionaire. He's spent tons of money on ads. He doesn't have any political experience. How is that a misconception? Tom Steyer is an extremely successful businessman. And if you ask every single person, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of Tom Steyer, you say billionaire. How is that a misconception? I don't understand it. With all due respect, Mr. Steyer, you're wrong. That's not a misconception. You're a billionaire. You're a very successful businessman. Embrace it, for Christ's sake. Not a misconception. So then Amy Klobuchar was asked that same question. Here's what she had to say.
The biggest misconception is that I'm boring, because I'm not. Then I would say that my motto, that politics is about improving people's lives.
All right, again, that's a nice motto. Politics about improving people's lives. I would tend to disagree with you because politics today doesn't appear to be about, helping people. It appears about your own career. I don't know a lot about Amy Klobuchar, but I can tell you something right now. I'm not sure if that's a misconception. She doesn't strike me as Miss Personality. She does strike me as quite boring. Again, that's something that I would say it's not a misconception. It's probably right, Amy. You don't. And by the way, what is up with her shaking? I'm not making fun of any health diseases that she has. Why is it that every single time she talks, her head shakes? It's just weird. It's off-putting. I find her quite a bit annoying. I would never vote for her. And yes, I do find her boring. So I don't think that's a misconception, Amy, with all due respect. Then Joe Biden asked that same question. Here's his response.
And my mother's motto was, she said, you're defined by your courage, you're redeemed by your loyalty.
What's the biggest misconception about you, sir?
I have more hair than I think I do.
All right, that's kind of funny. By the way, for the record, I'm bald. So me and Joe Biden do not have that in common at all. But listen, I think that's kind of cool when you talk a little bit about your motto and you talk about your mom. Hey, my mom said this. Because I think Joe Biden did a pretty good job yesterday. I thought he was stern. I thought he was getting agitated at times at the moderators because they were interrupting him and they were not giving him fair time. He had a right to be. I thought Joe Biden had a really good debate yesterday. And I like that misconception because it was funny. There's nothing funny about Amy Klobuchar saying, the biggest misconception about me is I'm boring because I'm really not boring. Oh, really, Amy? What's the most exciting thing you've ever done in your life besides being a senator? What's a night on the town with Amy Klobuchar? I'd love to hear that. I'm sure she just, sucked back that alcohol and she's just the life of the party. I mean, give me a break, Amy. Come on. But I liked Joe Biden's answer there. I really did. I thought it was a nice quote from his mom and then making a little half-hearted joke about his hair, making fun of himself a little bit. I thought that was funny. And then it was time to ask that same question to Bernie Sanders.
Misconception.
Yes.
Misconception, and you're hearing it here tonight, is that the ideas I'm talking about are radical. They're not. We can create a nation
All right, Senator.
where all people have a good standard of living.
Okay, first of all, when you say Bernie Sanders, he's not a dumb guy. He has to understand. When you say free college for all, that is the definition of radical. It's never going to happen. When you say $15 an hour minimum wage for all, it's not going to happen. When you say how are you going to pay for your Medicare for all? If you're making over $29,000 a year, we're going to tax you over 50%. It's not going to happen. That is radical. Is there anybody out there that thinks some of Bernie Sanders' opinions are not radical? Of course they're radical. So what do we have here, ladies and gentlemen? I'm counting so far. 3 out of 4 people saying that are misconceptions. They're not misconceptions. They're truthful. They're honest. Tom Steyer is a successful businessman. Amy Klobuchar is boring. And Bernie Sanders is radical. At least some of his opinions are radical. Why would anybody disagree with that? Now let's go to Elizabeth Warren. And I'll tell this about Elizabeth Warren real quickly. I think she's done very well in these debates. I do have more of a respect for her. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think if she faced Donald Trump, she would have a chance. I have a lot more respect for her, and I think she's done a much better job in these debates than Amy Klobuchar has. I respect her for going after Mike Bloomberg, for being aggressive, and I think to myself, if she's on that stage with Donald Trump, she is going to give it to him. So I do have a newfound respect for Elizabeth Warren. I think she's done a very good job, and she would be probably my second or third pick up there on that stage. So Elizabeth Warren was asked that same question, and here is what her response was.
Look, I never was supposed to be on a stage like this. And the misconception is that I thought I should be president of the United States. No, I got into this because I am a fighter. My motto ties in directly to this. It's Matthew 25. And that is, inasmuch as ye hath done it unto one of these, the least of thy brethren, ye have done it unto me.
All right, that's a little weird. I don't need to hear a passage from you, Elizabeth. I got to be honest with you. That was a little strange. But with that being said, I do agree with her. Of course she's a fighter. You can't just get up there on the stage without being a billionaire, without being a fighter, without having some guts and determination. And I have a lot of respect for her for being up there and continuing the fight. I don't think she's going to win the nomination, but I think her future in politics continues to be bright. And by the way, it's not out of the realm of possibility that someone could choose her as the vice president. Very much so. I could see Joe Biden doing that. It's not going to be Bloomberg. I could see possibly Bernie Sanders doing that. So she has a bright future in politics. The passage was a little weird there. And then we go to, who would be my number one pick? That is Pete Buttigieg. Here's what he had to say.
I think the biggest misconception is that I'm not passionate. I get that I'm kind of level. Some say unflappable. I don't think you want a president who's flappable. I seek to live by the teachings that say that if you would be a leader, you must first be a servant. And of course, the teaching, not unique to the Christian tradition, but a big part of it, that holds that we are to treat others as we would be treated.
By the way, just for the record, I will say that Donald Trump is very flappable, at least his arms and his belly. So I'll definitely say that. So Pete's right about that. But that was, that was a good answer. That was a good answer. I think a lot of people do see Pete Buttigieg as this even-keeled guy. But what is wrong with that? What is wrong with being even-keeled? What is wrong with being calm in your demeanor? If you're going to want to become the president of the United States, don't you have to have those qualities? Isn't that important? I don't think that's a negative. I actually think that's a positive. And then the final person that was asked this question is Mike Bloomberg. Here's what he had to say.
Misconception that I'm 6 feet tall. And quote, I've trained for this job for a long time, and when I get it, I'm going to do something rather than just talk about it.
All right, first of all, no one on the planet Earth thinks that you are 6 feet tall, Mr. Bloomberg, and Donald Trump has made that very clear and very evident. That is not a misconception. That is a fact. Here's what I would have said if I was Bloomberg. The misconception is that I'm a racist. And then I would have said I am the opposite of a racist, and here's why. I just don't think Mike Bloomberg is very good on the debate stage. That was a stupid thing to say. Really, is there anybody out there on the planet that thinks Mike Bloomberg is my height, 6 feet? That's insane. And then, saying that he's been training for this job, I'm not so sure being the mayor of New York City is training to be the president of the United States. It doesn't hurt, but I don't think you have to be a mayor to be the president. I don't think there's really any training unless you're the vice president. I will say that. The fact that Joe Biden was the vice president of the United States for 8 years, certainly you could make the case that that's training to be the president. I think Joe Biden has that argument. I'm not so sure Bloomberg does. We'll take your phone call. Take a few phone calls on this. What did you think about those misconceptions, those mottos? I think many of them were not misconceptions. Tom Steyer is a successful businessman. I believe Amy Klobuchar is somewhat boring. I think Bernie Sanders at times does have some radical opinions. Those aren't misconceptions. Those are facts. If you disagree with me, you can let me know. 702-257-5396 is the number to call again if you want to be a part of this conversation. Your thoughts on the Democratic debate last night, the misconceptions and the mottos of these candidates. I want to hear your thoughts on that, and then we'll get into the Bernie Sanders stuff. 257-5396, the number to call. Why don't we start off with Paul? Paul, you are first up on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good.
My thing about Elizabeth Warren is all I know about her is she's keeps good track of what other people do wrong and that she's slightly right of Bernie Sanders. Nothing about her impresses me. She's just, to me, the most divisive of them all because I honestly couldn't tell you what her policies are, except I know she's talked about writing some sort of a bill for health care and stuff like that, but there's been no elaboration on it. But I know that she seems to keep the best tabs on the other people, so she can rip into them.
Right.
And as far as Bernie Sanders goes, if the misconception would be that all these people that follow him think that they're going to get a free education, but if he had his way, they would. But you know what? If you became a doctor and we have socialized medicine,
yeah,
you're going to be making less money than the police make today because you're going to become a public servant.
Well, I think you made a good point. Let me just start with Elizabeth Warren. And by the way, I appreciate the call. Thank you for calling in, Paul. Let me start with Elizabeth Warren. You're right. There's a lot of people, including myself, that do not know her policies. They don't know a lot of her policies, what exactly she stands for. We know that she is a former special education teacher. We know that. We know she's certainly pro-teacher. We know she's not as far to the left as Bernie Sanders. You're right. We do know that. But you're 100% right. She doesn't talk a lot about her own policies. She goes on the attack. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a bad thing. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I certainly enjoyed it when she went after Mike Bloomberg. I thought that was very enjoyable because if someone makes horrific comments, whether that be in or the workplace or outside the workplace, and they want to be the president of the United States, they're going to be exposed for that. So while I agree with you, I think she's probably not spoken enough about her own policies. She certainly has been on the offensive and she's been the aggressor, and I do think that is a positive thing. Let me just take another phone call here. Let's go to David. David, you are next up on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
So my question to you is how long, if Biden wins the presidency, will it take for the Senate to move for a psychiatric examination to see if he has dementia?
You think Joe Biden has dementia?
Oh, I don't think Joe Biden has dementia. I'm about 99% sure that Joe Biden has dementia. The only thing he's missing is a degree.
Why do you think? Well,
how desperate? Here's what I can't get out. Your opinion is how desperate do you have to be to want to pick a guy for the Oval Office who borders on not knowing what state he's in, not knowing what day it is, not knowing any of the facts, not knowing anything coherent, not being able to put through a sentence, but you'd rather have him in the Oval Office than Trump.
Okay, so hold on. There's a lot to get to with that statement. First of all, maybe he had made a gaffe, and first of all, where have I ever said I would vote for Joe Biden? Let me just start there.
That was just my inference.
Okay, well, you can make all the inferences you want, but unless I tell you or say on the air I'm going to vote for Joe Biden, you shouldn't make an assumption because we all know what people, when people make assumptions. I've never said that I've supported Joe Biden. I've openly criticized Joe Biden, but guess what? I have a lot more respect for Joe Biden than I do Donald Trump. You know why? Because Joe Biden has served this country for a very, very long time. He has been through.
Oh, you mean he served his own wife?
Excuse me.
Joe Joe Biden.
So let me ask you a question then. All right. So let me ask you a question then. You don't think Donald? Okay, hold on. So let me ask you a question then. You don't think Donald Trump has served his own wallet his whole life? How about Donald Trump and his mental capacity? How about that? You don't have. How about Donald Trump and his impulsiveness on Twitter? Do you have a problem with that? Are you openly talking about Donald Trump and his issues, or are you just going to talk about Joe Biden?
I have a problem with. Here's what
No, I asked you. No. I asked you. No. First of all, excuse me.
And then come on and tell us about the
all right.
virus.
First of all, let me
okay.
So let me correct you again. Let me correct. Okay. Okay. Would you like to? Would you like to stay on the line, or do you want to just call me names? What would it be, sir? Exactly. You're off the line because you're a coward. Okay. First of all, I've never said I wanted open borders, and I'm not a Democrat. You are a moron. All you do is make assumptions. And folks, do you see what happens here with these idiots on the right? Some of these morons. You actually criticize Donald Trump for the same stuff that he criticized Joe Biden for, and what does he do? He just insults me, and he calls me a Democrat because he's a moron with a low IQ who can't have a debate with somebody. I was willing to have a conversation with him. Some of these Donald Trump supporters, he talks about Joe Biden and his whole career. All he cared about is his own wallet, and he's got dementia. The second I asked him a few questions about Donald Trump, he doesn't address the issue. He calls me a Democrat or a liberal. He makes generalizations, and then he hangs up the phone because he is a coward. You just expose yourself for being a coward, sir, because that's exactly what you are. You're going to tell me that Joe Biden his whole life has only cared about his own interest, and you're not going to mention one thing about Donald Trump? Heck, just last week, Donald Trump was staying at his own hotel. His family profited off of that. Just last week in Las Vegas. Just last week, he decided to fly home. We talked about it yesterday. Several rallies across the country. Instead of staying in that city, he decided to fly back to the Trump Hotel. But this idiot who just calls in, all he wants to complain about is Joe Biden, how his health, because I guess he's a doctor, right? I guess he's a doctor. He said 99% that guy has dementia. Well, let me tell you something, sir. 99% you didn't even get your GED because you're a dummy. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to get into this Bernie Sanders conversation. Bernie Sanders praising Fidel Castro. We have the audio for you. And Democrats going after him on that stage. Is it right? Is it wrong? We'll get to that and my open criticism in regards to the moderators of the debate. That much more coming back. You're listening to The Vegas Take.
If your business is in need of office furniture, look no further than Office Furniture Concepts. From executive furniture to workstations, conference tables to reception furniture, and more, Office Furniture Concepts has got you covered. With true commercial-grade quality at competitive prices and knowledgeable staff, it's no wonder Office Furniture Concepts has been serving the Las Vegas community for over 2 decades. Visit Office Furniture Concepts showroom on West Tropicana at Arville or call 702-873-8555. That's 702-873-8555.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit beefy, or even with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Affordable term life insurance is out there. Call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-481-1458. 800-481-1458 or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too.
Have you been lied to by Washington politicians and the Wall Street propaganda machine? Hi, I'm Inc. Magazine bestselling author Brett Kitchen. And if you're over 55 with an IRA or 401k, I want to give you a free copy of my new book, Wealth Beyond Wall Street, because according to Time Magazine, Wall Street's 401ks have failed millions of Americans. After losing 35% in my IRA in the crash years ago, I said enough. And since then, I discovered a way to grow money potential double digits, reduce taxes dramatically, and also have my money protected when the next stock market crash hits. When the next market crash hits, you lose nothing. Call Wealth Beyond Wall Street now to get your free book and talk to a specialist to discover this little-known strategy to get potential double-digit growth during good years and never lose in the next market crash.
Call 800-436-8181 to discover this asset that people like Walt Disney and JCPenney use to grow wealthy. Plus, get one of just 97 free books left. We even cover shipping and handling, no credit card required. Call 800-436-8181. 1-800-436-8181. That's 1-800-436-8181.
response fund to deal with problems like the coronavirus is out of money. That word from Health Secretary Alex Azar today.
We are at the point now where we have used or where we have either committed or obligated the monies in that $105 million rapid response fund.
On Capitol Hill, lawmakers are considering a proposal to provide health officials with more than $8 billion in emergency funding. An important endorsement from key Democrat James Clyburn ahead of the South Carolina primary.
But I want the public to know that I'm voting for Joe Biden. South Carolinians should be voting for Joe Biden.
The Indiana grandfather charged in his young granddaughter's fatal fall from a cruise ship's open window says he will plead guilty to try to bring to an end the nightmare for his family. Stocks have rebounded today after 3 losing sessions. The Dow up about 100 points at this hour. I'm Mike Moss.
It's time to check the roads.
From the Lerner and Rowe Traffic Studio.
This report sponsored by your Southern Nevada Chevy dealer. An accident with injuries reported Desert Inn at Lindell Road. Also, police and fire on scene for another injury crash at Jones southbound at the 215 Southern Beltway. And an accident on Spencer, just north of St. Rose Parkway. That's affecting north and southbound. Meanwhile, a nice recovery underway on the 95 in the West Valley. Only light slowing remains between Craig Road to about Lake Mead Boulevard, and then we're done. Still heavy slowing on 15 northbound, approaching the Southern Beltway up to Flamingo. Celebrate President's Day at your Southern Nevada Chevy dealer and choose from great cashback release offers or even low APR financing. Hurry to a Southern Nevada Chevy dealer and drive away in a new Chevrolet. John Michaels from the K-Don Traffic Center.
Paid for by Bank on Yourself.
Would you get on an airplane if you knew it had a 50% chance of crashing? You may be riding that plane right now. If you have your money in a 401k or IRA and you plan to take out the recommended percentage each year when you retire, your chance of running out of money is 50%. 50%. But there's a better and safer way to secure your income in retirement. Discover how in a free book called Rescue Your Retirement. This wealth building strategy has never had a losing year in more than a century. In fact, even the man who invented the 401k now prefers this method instead. Get Rescue Your Retirement free for just a small shipping charge and enjoy a safe landing and a comfortable retirement. Get this free book and make sure you don't run out of money. Hurry, this offer is extremely limited. To get your free copy, just go to growwealthsafely.com. That's growwealthsafely.com to discover how to rescue your retirement. growwealthsafely.com.
Transform your bathroom in just one day with the experts at Reborn Bath Solutions. Reborn Bath Solutions has been serving Las Vegas for over 3 decades, and right now they're offering 50% off all labor and 1 full year with no interest and no payments. You can't beat that. Make your appointment online today at rebornbathsolutions.com, and they'll give you a $50 Bed Bath & Beyond gift card just for considering them. 50% off labor, 1 full year of no interest and no payments, plus a $50 Bed Bath & Beyond gift card. What are you waiting for? Reborn Bath Solutions. They bring the showroom to you with free in-home appointments at your convenience. Visit rebornbathsolutions.com today. That's rebornbathsolutions.com. Take advantage of this amazing offer. 50% off all labor, 1 full year of no interest and no payments, plus a $50 Bed Bath & Beyond gift card. Reborn Bath Solutions, where it's done right and done in a day.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM. K-Don.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. By the way, also broadcasting live on YouTube. Check out the YouTube page. All you got to do is type in the Vegas Take. We are streaming live with multiple cameras, and you can see my beautiful mug and my beautiful face, because I know that's what all of you want to see. Really, I know it. I know it. Also, a reminder, we have Pete Buttigieg's brother-in-law coming up on the program at the top of the hour. His name is Pastor Rhyan Glesman, and he says that Pete Buttigieg is a sinner. Probably shouldn't come to a shocker to many since he's a pastor, but this is interesting. Why is he going public with his opinions? Why is he hurting Pete Buttigieg? We'll ask him that coming up in hour number 2. I mentioned the moderators and how they were just atrocious last night. And if you're wondering who they were, Gayle King. Remember Gayle King? Look, Gayle King's been around a long time. She's obviously good at what she does. She was not good last night. She got, in that big controversy about asking Lisa Leslie a question about Kobe Bryant's rape allegations 17 years ago. The other moderator was Norah O'Donnell. Now, here's an example of what I'm talking about. I want you to listen to this. Norah O'Donnell totally screws up at the end of the debate. Now, I get it. This stuff happens, but it shouldn't happen in a debate when you have professionals. Have a listen to this.
Well, thank you. That concludes our debate.
No, we have time for one more break, Nora, one more break. Time flies when you're having fun. You're watching the Democratic debate right here on CBS.
Yeah, because it really seemed like the moderators were having a lot of fun. Time definitely flies. You can't make mistakes like that, but it wasn't just that mistake. If that was the only mistake they made, you'd say, so what? No big deal. They just completely lost control. Josh Jordan, many dignitaries on Twitter that cover politics says these moderators might be the weakest moderators I've seen in a debate. They have absolutely no control over who's speaking, and they are forcing candidates to steamroll them if they want any speaking time. And there were some others, like Mika Brzezinski from, obviously, NBC. She says, does CBS have a buzzer or something to organize this? What is going on? And even Andrew Yang, former presidential candidate, weighing on this. He went on Twitter. He said the moderators are having trouble controlling the debate. Yeah, no crap. Nicholas Foncaro said, absolute train wreck of the Dem debate. They don't even know when it's supposed to end. Terrible job by Norah O'Donnell and Gayle King. Josh Krauser said, so awkward. O'Donnell ends debate, but there's apparently one more segment going. I mean, Twitter was just hammering these two. The bottom line is there's a reason why in these past several debates, these Democratic debates, the moderators weren't being hammered because they did a pretty good job. If you're good at what you do, you shouldn't have a situation like that where you lose control. Here's what I think should happen. If you ask me, I think that they should just turn off the mics. The only person that is called to turn their mic on. There should be a potting up, potting down, kind of like what we do with some idiotic callers, and I say, pot him down, pot him down. They should have done the same thing in the debate. Be able to pod up and pod down the microphones when they are called to. That way, nobody can hear them interrupt except for maybe those people that are on the stage. That's how I think they should handle these debates because it was so unorganized. It was so chaotic. How much time did you hear 2 or 3 people talking over each other last night? It's annoying. It can't happen. And I'll tell you what else is annoying. When the front runner in the Democratic Party is praising evil, murderous dictators. You don't know what I'm talking about? Well, we have the audio for you. This was Bernie Sanders' original comments that he made on 60 Minutes talking about Fidel Castro. Have a listen to this.
We're very opposed to the authoritarian nature of Cuba. But, it's unfair to simply say everything is bad. When Fidel Castro came into office, you know what he did? He had a massive literacy program. Is that a bad thing? Even though Fidel Castro did it?
There's a lot of dissidents imprisoned in Cuba.
That's right, and we condemn that. Unlike Donald Trump, let's be clear, I do not think that Kim Jong-un is a good friend. I don't trade love letters with a murdering dictator.
Well, I mean, you're right, but you just praised an evil, murderous dictator in Fidel Castro, Mr. Sanders. You talk about this literacy program, and if anybody knows anything about it, there's a reason why he had this literacy program, Fidel Castro, and it wasn't because he cared about his people and he wanted them to read. It was so he could monitor them. He could monitor the things that they were reading so he could get more information on those citizens, some of whom might have been against him. That's why he had this literacy program. How does Bernie Sanders not know that? It's idiotic. It's stupid. And then he defended himself and he doubled down on it. He went on the CNN town hall this week and Chris Cuomo asked him the question. Here's what he had to say about that.
You said on 60 Minutes this weekend, it is unfair to simply say everything is bad with the way Fidel Castro ruled in Cuba. Now, Democratic members of Congress who represent Cuban Americans in Florida, obviously you got to win there, they're attacking your comment as absolutely unacceptable, singing the praises of a murderous tyrant. Response.
The response was when Fidel Castro first came to power, which was when? 59? Does that sound right?
59-60.
Okay. You know what he did? He initiated a major literacy program. There was a lot of folks in Cuba at that point who were illiterate. And he formed the literacy brigade. You may read that. He went out and they helped people learn to read and write. You know what? I think teaching people to read and write is a good thing.
It's not a good thing if they do it for the wrong reasons, Mr. Sanders. And the fact that he even brings up Fidel Castro and says something positive about that. What's next? Are we going to talk about Adolf Hitler? Well, it's a good thing. Adolf Hitler showed that any man could have a very attractive mustache. I mean, really, what's next in the Democratic Party? This is ridiculous. It's absurd. And listen, the president of the United States is doing the exact same thing. He kisses the ass of Vladimir Putin every chance he gets. Same thing with Kim Jong-un. He sides with evil, murderous dictators. If they want to get away from Donald Trump, the Democrats, and they want to distance themselves from this stuff, I don't want to hear Bernie Sanders talk about Donald Trump, love letters with Kim Jong-un. I don't want to hear him talk about that when he's the one who's praising Fidel Castro. It's ridiculous. And I'm glad he's being, I guess you could use the term, getting killed for those comments in a metaphorical way. Pete Buttigieg responded that he was asked in a town hall his thoughts on Bernie Sanders praising Fidel Castro. Listen to this.
So this is part of what I'm getting at when I say that in our one shot to defeat Donald Trump, we should think carefully about the consequences of nominating Senator Sanders. I don't want, as a Democrat, I don't want to be explaining why our nominee is encouraging people to look on the bright side of the Castro regime when we're going into the election of our lives. We need to stand unequivocally against dictatorships everywhere in the world.
I could not agree with Pete Buttigieg more. I mean, where are we at now? What is Bernie Sanders thinking? He's the last person I thought would have been praising Fidel Castro. What do we say to that? Well, I know he killed thousands and thousands and thousands of his own people, but you know what? I really like that literacy program he put into place. What's next? Boy, that guy Osama bin Laden, he really was a bad terrorist, but he really had some fashion. This isn't funny. This isn't a joke. These are people that just murdered their own people, killed their own people. He was an evil, murderous dictator. He was a terrorist. Call him what you want. I'm glad he's dead. So he might have had some literacy program, and the word is that the reason why he had that program was so that he could monitor and do a better job of monitoring his own people, what they were reading. And then again, he doubles down on it last night, and he defends it. Of course, he was asked, Bernie Sanders I'm talking about, at the debate last night, he was asked about this, and here is his response.
What I said is what Barack Obama said in terms of Cuba, that Cuba made progress on education. Yes, I think, really? Really?
Yes, because
Literacy
there's no
programs are
comparing
bad?
those two
What Barack Obama said is they made great progress on education and health care. That was Barack Obama. I talked to Barack Obama. Excuse me. Occasionally, it might be a good idea to be honest about American foreign policy.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous defense. And you heard a moment there where the crowd was kind of booing Bernie Sanders a little bit. I want to know how you guys feel about that, because I'll tell you how I feel about it. I think it's atrocious. I think it's ignorant. I think Bernie Sanders made a very big mistake. Now, maybe with some of these evil, murderous dictators around the world, those who have passed on and those who are still alive, maybe they might have one or two good characteristics. Maybe there might be one or two things you say to yourself, that's not such a bad idea. Does that mean we have to praise all of them? Does that mean we have to praise murderers? I want to know what your thoughts on that are. The number to call, 702-257-5396. Again, that number, if you would like to be a part of the program, 702-257-5396 is the number to call. What do you think about Bernie Sanders praising an evil, murderous dictator? What do you think about Bernie Sanders defending it? What do you think about Bernie Sanders praising Fidel Castro's literacy program on a world stage, a man that has killed so many of his own people? Make no mistake about it, he's a murderer. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with a presidential candidate, or a president for that matter, siding with an evil, murderous dictator over his own CIA? Are you okay with someone that is running for president praising Fidel Castro? And here's my other question to you callers out there. Would you not vote for somebody because of what Bernie Sanders said last night? What Bernie Sanders said in praising Fidel Castro, would that give you a reason and to say to yourself, you know what, I was open to voting for him, now I'm not going to? I wasn't going to vote for Bernie Sanders anyway. But when I heard what Bernie Sanders said last night on that stage, I said, there's no chance. There's no way. Democrats are going to hammer him for this. Opening up the phone line, 702-257-5396. Again, if you want to be a part of the conversation, your thoughts on Bernie Sanders praising Fidel Castro. Because make no mistake about it, that's exactly what he did. Praising Fidel Castro, doubling down on his praise. Your thoughts on that? And again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, is 702-257-5396. Why don't we start off with Al? Al, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. What's on your mind?
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Al.
No JD today?
That's a good question. I don't know. My co-host has left the building. No, I think he was sick. He has a sick day today. Yeah.
Well, we hope he feels better. So I had one comment about this Bernie Sanders issue, and that's really, when you look at Bernie Sanders, you look at his body of work, his life, and the things he's done and said, is anybody really, truly surprised at the fact that he would praise Fidel Castro or any communist country?
Well, I got to be honest with you, Al. I got to be honest with you. Even I was a little surprised. I mean, listen, I'm not a Bernie Sanders supporter. I don't like some of his policies, the things he wants to implement. But I compare this to some of the stuff that Donald Trump has done in siding with Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un. I think it's disgusting. I don't think anybody that is in politics should ever go there. And he's wrong. But Al, I'm just being honest with you. I was even a little surprised.
Yeah, I think that for him to have done that on that stage and that moment was a little bit shocking as well. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I want, if you bear with me, I want to ask you one more question just based on something you said a little earlier.
Sure.
And it's a total hypothetical.
Yeah.
Donald Trump, Amy Klobuchar are running for they're obviously the two nominees in this scenario.
Yeah.
Who are you voting for?
Boy, that's a really good question. Boy, you're putting me in a tough spot here, my man. You really are.
And I knew that because you said I would never vote for her.
I got to be honest with you. I
got
to be honest with you, and I'm going to break this down quickly. I think Amy Klobuchar's policies would be better for the country, but I think it would be horrible for my career. So I have to, I have to think about that. Okay, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, Al. I'm going to make a promise with you. Call back tomorrow. I need 24 hours to think about that. I can't give you an honest answer, my friend. You stumped me. I can't do it.
You got it. I love it.
All right,
I
Al.
love it. All right, man. You have a great day.
You too. I got to think about that, Al. You stumped me. I don't think that's ever happened on this show. Someone asks me a question, I'm usually, boom, I'm right there to give an answer. I can't answer that right now. You put me in a tough spot. I got to think about that for 24 hours. Boy, that is a tough one. Amy Klobuchar or Donald Trump? Oof. Boy, that is brutal. Very good question, Al. Congratulations. You should win a prize. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Karen. Karen, you are next up on the Vegas Take. What's up? Karen, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Karen. You're on.
Listen, Bernie talks about transforming this country. This country doesn't need to be transformed. It's the greatest country in the world. Our economy's booming. Las Vegas was devastated in 2008. I lived here. It was virtually a ghost town. It fell apart. Donald Trump has brought that back. What is Bernie going to do that's better than what's happening in the last 4 years? What can he do?
All right. Well, let me just start by saying this. I would imagine you're right about 2008. By the way, I was here in 2008. I would hope you give Barack Obama a little bit of credit for helping bounce back the economy, right? I mean, you'd give him a little bit of credit for that, right?
You know what? I was on unemployment for 18 months. My husband in almost 2 years.
Okay.
The only thing that I liked about that is the extension. But that put us in further debt.
Okay, but you're not.
You got to take the good with the bad.
Okay, I mean, I think Obama did a good job in turning the economy around, and I think Donald Trump has done a good job in continuing that. As far as Bernie Sanders go, you asked me a few questions of what can he do differently. Well, you're right. The economy's good. Unemployment numbers are down, but wages are not up. Minorities are not making the money that they deserve to be made as compared to people that are white in this country. I think we have a huge homeless problem in this country. The national debt is as high as it's ever been. Trump has not done a good job in that category either. While I don't support Bernie Sanders, Karen, I'm with you. I'm not a big Bernie Sanders guy. I think some of his policies are ridiculous. $15 an hour minimum wage for everybody, free college for all. I'm not a supporter of that, Karen, but I will say this. There are a few things he could do to help us. I like some of his policies. I certainly don't like all of them, if that makes sense.
It does make sense.
Yeah.
But listen, none of those Democrats on stage brought up the problem of human trafficking and protecting children.
Well, I hear you.
About healthcare.
I hear you, Karen, and I appreciate the phone call. I'm going to give all those candidates a pass, and the reason why is because they just don't have a lot of time. And if the moderators don't ask the questions, blame the moderators. You know, they have to stay on topic, but I get what you're saying. Let's go to Philip. Philip, you are next up on the Vegas Take. What's going on? Philip, are you there?
Yes.
Go ahead, my friend.
Okay. Good morning. My perspective is, I do agree with you that Fidel Castro was a tyrant, no doubt about that. But what about him controlling the books that he got his citizens to read? So in a way, he increased literacy, but he also controlled the number of books that were there for the citizens.
No question. I agree with you. And I talked a little bit about that 15 minutes ago. He had all the control. He wanted the control of his citizens. He didn't give them freedom to write about whatever they wanted to write about or read about. And he controlled what they were doing. And for Bernie Sanders, Philip, to not know that and to not be educated on this issue and to praise an evil, murderous dictator is troublesome to me.
I do agree. It is troublesome, but you also have to give him the credit that, yes, literacy rates could have gone up considerably. People learned to read and write. That's my perspective.
Okay.
People learn to read and write.
I understand that, but I'm not going to give anybody credit for murdering their own people, regardless of if you like one or two of their qualities. I'm just not going to do that. And guess what? I'm not running for president of the United States. I'm just a radio guy. You know, if I found out that Saddam Hussein gave free T-shirts to the homeless in his country, I would not praise him for it because Saddam Hussein was an evil, murderous dictator. Same thing, if you go to any of these Al-Qaeda members like Osama bin Laden. If I learned that Osama bin Laden was teaching women how to read, but he was also pimping them out, which he was, by the way, I wouldn't give him credit for that. And that's where my problem is, Philip. And I hope, by the way, listen, I appreciate the phone call. Thank you for calling in. I'm not going to praise any evil, murderous dictator. Let's go to Rick. Rick, you're next up on the Vegas Take. What's going on, my friend?
How you doing, Brian?
Good. What's on your mind?
That Bernie, they must be really desperate that they make him a front runner. You know, he never did nothing and introduced any bills that I ever remember.
Well, can I be honest, though, Rick? I don't think many in the Democratic Party want him to be the front runner. I'm just not sure they can do anything about it this time around.
Yeah. Well, and then that $15 minimum wage, that's ridiculous.
I agree. But here's where I don't think it's ridiculous, Rick, and you can tell me whether you agree with me or not. I'm not comfortable with a 16-year-old flipping burgers making $15 an hour. However, I am comfortable with a woman in her mid-20s who has a family who works at Walmart making $15 an hour. If the company is making billions of dollars, pay your employees $15 an hour. If you're opening up a company or you have a small company that is struggling to get by, no, I don't want them to pay their employees $15 an hour because they're going to go out of business. So I guess what I'm saying, Rick, is there has to be some middle ground, and that's my problem with politics today, and that's my problem with Bernie Sanders. He's so extreme to the left. Get back to the middle a little bit. I agree. Some people deserve a little higher of a wage than where it's at. I agree with that. I agree. College is way too expensive. We're not going to have free college for all. We're not going to be able to pay everybody $15 an hour. That's why Bernie's not going to be elected.
Well, the way he's talking, everything's going to be free this, free that, medical, everything. We can't afford that in this country.
Probably not.
He's going to raise taxes on the rich. Well, let me tell you something about the rich. More power to them. At least they're the ones that are employing a lot of people. You know, people don't think about that.
Well, they are employing a lot.
You're going to get no bum on the street going to do you any good, with those signs. You see those guys standing around with signs every day.
And I hear you, Rick, but I think that a lot of those people have mental illness, and that's a homeless issue. That's a separate story. One thing you said about the rich, I don't think that Fortune 500 company should be paying less taxes than somebody making $50,000 or $40,000 a year. I would hope you would agree with that. I think we need to be honest and sincere about these opinions. But yes, I agree with you. Bernie Sanders wants handouts for everybody, and that's not the way to go either. Again, there has to be middle ground. If you're extreme to the left, get back more to the middle a little bit. If you do care about middle-class America, just paying everybody $15 an hour and giving them free college is not going to solve anything. Let's go to Lewis. Lewis, you are next up on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, man. Listen, dude, I think it's hilarious that you, the Democrats, the mainstream media are in an outrage about Bernie Sanders. Dude, the guy's been running for 5 years.
Okay.
Everything that you guys are outraged about.
Why do you keep saying you guys? I speak for myself. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not the mainstream media. I don't know why you keep saying that.
Well, I said you.
Okay, so let's talk about me. So
the
let's.
Democrats are outraged. Why are you outraged? The guy has been running for 5 years.
First of all, okay, well, hold on. I'm not outraged. I'm just angry at the fact that he praised an evil, murderous dictator. Now, for years, I've said I'm not a Bernie Sanders supporter for this reason. He says and does stupid things, and he says things as policies, some of which would never pass. I wouldn't say I'm all of a sudden outraged for the things he said.
My question is why are you angry? Everything that he has been saying about
Here's
Cuba
why I'm angry.
and that has been aired about Cuba has been, it's been on the air for 5 years.
The same reason why I'm angry when Donald Trump gets up on a stage and kisses the ass of Vladimir Putin and takes Vladimir Putin's word over our own CIA. For the same reason that Donald Trump gets on a stage, on the world stage, and takes Kim Jong-un's side over the murder of Otto Warmbier. It's the same type of stuff that gets me angry. It's called taking the side of an evil, murderous dictator that has killed thousands and thousands of people. It bothers me. It gets me angry. It's why I don't like Bernie Sanders and why I will not vote for him, and it's the same reason why I despise Donald Trump.
And you know what? That's fine. But what Donald Trump says is absolutely right. You're going to have no choice because no one on the Democratic side right now is appealing or can even.
Well, that's your opinion. I disagree with you.
The current president.
That's your opinion.
Well, you know what? I'm going to call you back on November 5th, and I'm just going to laugh at your face.
Okay.
And I'm going to call you an idiot.
Okay.
Can I do that?
Well, first of all, sir.
How about, let's make that bet.
How about? Okay. Well, how about let me talk? Okay. How about let me talk? Okay. Would you like to? Do you want?
Let me get on air.
Okay. Pot him down because this idiot won't shut up. So pot him down. Pot him down all the way because this idiot won't shut up. I never said that anybody on that stage 100% was going to beat Donald Trump. All I've said is that there are a few people on that stage, Pete Buttigieg being one of them, that I would support. I didn't say he was going to beat Donald Trump. So as I pod you back up, okay, I'm gonna call you an idiot for not listening to me. I never said anybody on that stage was going to defeat Donald Trump. I said there are one or two people on that stage that I support. Do you not understand the distinction to that, sir?
Understand.
Okay, so how am I an idiot then? So how am I an idiot then? Excuse me, sir. How am I an idiot then?
I said no one on that stage is going to beat him.
And most likely, excuse me, no, I didn't. Why don't you open up? Okay, hang up on this idiot. He doesn't even know how to listen. I never said I disagree with you, you dummy. Coming up next, Pastor Rhyan Glesman. He is Pete Buttigieg's brother-in-law. He's coming up next right here on the Vegas Take.
It's your friend Sean Hannity, and with the election on the horizon, well, you've got a lot of important choices ahead of you. But let's not talk politics for just a second and focus on your home. If you're about to sell your home, before you throw your money away, listen very carefully. Contact the agent I personally trust, Rick and Terry Brinkus of Keller Williams Realty, the marketplace. And Rick and Terry have averaged over 250 sales per year. Now get this, for 25 straight years. Now they understand the headache and the stress that comes with selling a home, and they know how to eliminate the drama. In fact, they can help set a price and a deadline you agree to. Now, if that deadline passes, they will buy your home. Real estate mogul and Shark Tank star Barbara Corcoran only recommends Rick and Terry Brinkus in Las Vegas. And if I needed to sell a home in Southern Nevada, well, no question, I'd call the Brinkus team. Call the Brinkus team today at 702-456-5959 online at thebrinkesteam.com.
License number BS 16186.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit beefy, or even with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Affordable term life insurance is out there. Call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-481-1458. 800-481-1458 or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds, too.
I'm attorney Glenn Lerner. You never saw it coming.
In the blink of an eye, a car wreck has left you seriously injured. You made it to the hospital and you received medical care, but your problems have only just begun.
I'm attorney Kevin Rowe. After the wreck, how are you going to get the money you need to get your car fixed, for medical bills, for lost wages? How are you going to provide for your family now? Get the legal help you want when you need it most, right now.
Lerner and Rowe is the way to go. Call 877-1500.
Scott Guido, managing attorney. Kevin Rowe is only licensed in Arizona, New Mexico, Oregon, Washington, and Illinois.
Your home for Sean Hannity. KDWN Las Vegas, KKLZ HD2 Las Vegas, a Beasley Media Group station.
Nations affected. U.S. total grows. I'm Mike Moss. Pakistan and Brazil are the latest nations to report outbreak of the coronavirus, and the German health minister today telling his country to get ready for an epidemic. For the first time, there are more new cases outside of China. The CDC says there are now 59 confirmed cases in the U.S. The health secretary is answering the virus-fighting concerns of Congress.
Secretary Azar seeks to assure members of a House committee about the threat posed by the coronavirus.
The immediate risk to the American public remains low, but there is now community transmission in a number of countries, including outside of Asia, which is deeply concerning.
But Secretary Azar also says the Trump administration is making preparations.
We're working closely with state, local, and private sector partners to prepare for mitigating the virus's potential spread in the United States.
The administration has requested some $2.5 billion for vaccine development, treatment, and protective equipment. Some members of Congress call that too little, too late. Linda Kenyon, Capitol Hill.
The acting Homeland Security Secretary is Chad Wolf.
This is an evolving risk, and we are assessing our resources and our measures on a day-by-day, week-by-week progress.
The president is planning to speak to the nation about the virus later today. Republican Mac Thornberry pressed Defense Secretary Mark Esper today on the funneling of billions from defense to construct a southern border wall.
We made a different judgment call than the administration's budget request. And in effect, what the administration does is say, we don't care what has been authorized and appropriated, we're going to do what we darn well want.
Winter Park, Florida police have charged Sarah Boone with zipping her boyfriend into a suitcase, recording his cries for help, and leaving him locked inside until he died. On Wall Street, stocks have recovered some today. The Dow is up 136 points at this hour. I'm Mike Moss.
Sponsored by Palm.
It's time to check the roads.
From the Lerner and Rowe Traffic Studio.
This report sponsored by Valley Auto Mall. A crash on the 215 Western Beltway northbound at Charleston. It's at the on-ramp. Stay to the left to get by. Also slowing I-15 northbound from the 215 Southern Beltway up to Tropicana. And a crash on 15 north at Lamb Boulevard is also an off-ramp issue. On the surface streets, an accident, injury sustained reported at Alta at Durango Drive. The Valley Auto Mall has over 7,000 vehicles to choose from. Shop, search, and compare at one convenient location. Visit the Valley Auto Mall in Henderson. It's the biggest one of all. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
It's open enrollment season, and MediShare is the Christian healthcare sharing ministry that saves most families about $500 a month. Google MediShare and see if it's a fit for you. MediShare, healthcare you can believe in.
Hey, Chuck, I know there are a lot of scams with online payday loans. What should people watch out for?
So many of these websites might look totally legit, but they're far from it. And the borrower needs to be very careful to make sure they're dealing with a lender that's licensed right here in Nevada, like Dollar Loan Center.
How do they get away with that?
It's normally the online companies that are based out of the country in places like Costa Rica or hiding on tribal land to skirt state lending laws. And others are just lead generators who will just bombard you with calls, texts, and emails. Just be careful and do your research.
That was Chuck, founder of Dollar Loan Center, with some very sound advice about online loan scams. We have over 50 local and licensed locations, and our friendly Dollar Loan Center staff are ready to help while keeping your information safe. Stop by or check us out online at don'tbebroke.com for all the details.
Licensed by Nevada Financial Institutions Division. Customer must meet the normal loan qualifications. To review loan qualifications, visit us at don'tbebroke.com. Certain limitations may apply. Loans are subject to approval.
Are you tired of strained relationships, the shame of overindulging, and downward spirals, but quitting drinking completely just isn't for you? Sound familiar? Meet LifeBack, a physician-approved, completely private, personalized plan for treating problem drinking without having to quit completely. Using a combination combination of medication proven in clinical studies to reduce the urge to overdrink in 92% of people and in-app coaching and support tools, LifeBack gradually gets you to a place where drinking can be a part of your life without being a problem in it. The best part? Every aspect of your LifeBack plan is managed on our mobile app from the privacy of your phone, and medication is delivered discreetly to your doorstep without the need for in-person doctor appointments. If you're ready for sharper focus, stronger relationships, better health, and saved money while still enjoying moderate drinking, you're ready for LifeBack. Visit lifebac.com to start the LifeBack program today. lifebac.com.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON. The opinions of the hosts on KDWN are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group. Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us on a Wednesday. By the way, coming up here at the bottom of the hour, we're going to be joined by the brother of Pete Buttigieg, brother-in-law. His name is Pastor Rhyan, and he has been pretty vocal on the fact that he says that Pete Buttigieg is a sinner. So we're going to talk to him a little bit about that. He'll be joining us here in just a few minutes. Also, big game tonight, by the way, at the Thomas & Mack Center. It is senior night for UNLV basketball. They're coming off of arguably one of their biggest wins over the course of the last decade. They beat, at the time, 4th ranked in the country, San Diego State. Enormous win for UNLV. So we will preview tonight's game and where I see the rest of the season going. Boy, it is wrapping up, isn't it, folks? What a crazy sports week we got for you next week. We've got, this weekend, we have Major League Baseball spring training here at the ballpark at Red Rock. It's awesome. We've got the Mountain West Conference Tournament next week in Vegas. We've got the West Coast Conference Tournament with Gonzaga, St. Mary's, BYU. BYU's a top 25 team in the country, and they just beat Gonzaga. Boy, is the West Coast Conference Tournament going to be fun. So that's next week. So a lot of interesting things happening here as far as the sports world goes. We'll get to that coming up in hour number 3. And also, an Oklahoma girls basketball team is now speaking out after their PA announcer called some of their names disgusting. Yeah, this is bizarre, to say the least. And a radio host has now been fired after calling a quarterback a derogatory slur. We'll get to that coming up here in just a little bit. We've been talking about the Democratic debate last night. We've been talking about Bernie Sanders praising Fidel Castro. And we'll take your phone calls on that at 257-5396. But before we get to some of those calls, it's one of the main reasons why I've been critical of Colin Kaepernick. Hey, Colin Kaepernick decided to take a knee. We know the whole story. We know why he took the knee, even though I question why, but he claims it was because of the injustices with minorities and law enforcement. So what does he decide to do? A few weeks later, he wears a Fidel Castro shirt in Florida. He wears pig socks depicting all police officers as pigs. And I said, this guy has zero credibility. You watch. And as the weeks and months and now years have passed since he decided to take a knee, we've learned that he's more interested in sponsorships with Nike. He's more interested in writing a memoir. He's more interested in writing a book than he really does care, in my personal opinion, about these issues between law enforcement and minorities. And it was wrong. So I question Bernie Sanders, and I think it's fair to question him. Why are you praising an evil, murderous dictator? Why? And if you don't remember, I want to go back to that original cut. This was what he said on 60 Minutes about a week ago when he was talking about Fidel Castro, and here's the praise that he gave for Fidel Castro. Have a listen to this on 60 Minutes.
We're very opposed to the authoritarian nature of Cuba. But, it's unfair to simply say everything is bad. When Fidel Castro came into office, you know what he did? He had a massive literacy program. Is that a bad thing? Even though Fidel Castro did it?
There's a lot of dissidents imprisoned in Cuba.
That's right, and we condemn that. Unlike Donald Trump, let's be clear, I do not think that Kim Jong-un is a good friend. I don't trade love letters with a murdering dictator.
You ask me, that's just as bad. What are your thoughts on that? You ask me trading love letters with Kim Jong-un and praising Fidel Castro for some literacy program. To me, they're just as bad. They go hand in hand, what Donald Trump did and what Bernie Sanders did. So I ask you guys this question. Do you have a problem with Bernie Sanders praising Fidel Castro, not just on 60 Minutes, not just on a CNN town hall, but last night defending it on the debate stage? Do you have a problem with that? Regardless of whether you're a Bernie Sanders supporter or not. I'm not a Bernie Sanders supporter. I never claimed to be. But I have a serious problem with praising any evil, murderous dictator. Do you have a problem with that? Dead or alive, Fidel Castro should never be praised under any circumstance, period. He was a terrorist. He was a murderer. He tortured his own people. Number to call, 702-257-5396. Again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-257-5396. To me, it's the exact same thing as if somebody praised Osama bin Laden. What would you say if Donald Trump took the stage, was talking about Osama bin Laden and said, you know, I got to give Osama bin Laden credit. He fed his people. For people that were in Afghanistan that did not have money, he gave them food, he fed them. Got to give him credit for that. What would you say if Donald Trump said something like that? What would you say if Barack Obama, in regards to Saddam Hussein back in the day, said, well, you know, got to give Saddam Hussein a lot of credit. He employed a lot of people. He paid a lot of people. He employed a lot of people. The activity might have been illegal, but he certainly employed a lot of people. What would you say if Barack Obama said that? What would you say? What would you say? This is, to me, this is the equivalent. Make no mistake about it. What Bernie Sanders said last night on that stage and what Bernie Sanders has been saying for a while now in regards to Cuba, in regards to Fidel Castro, is utterly and blatantly disgusting. This isn't just a gaffe, okay? For example, yesterday on the debate stage, Joe Biden took a lot of flack. And these idiots who have supported the NRA for years, like the Dana Loesch's of the world, the witches of the world. So Dana Loesch, what does she decide to do? She decides to go on Twitter, and she decides to chastise Joe Biden because Joe Biden said 150 million people died, from gun violence. It's 150,000. It's not 150 million. That would be half of the population in this country. So obviously it was a gaffe. That was a mistake. It was a gaffe. And I said, Dana Loesch, she cares more about and she gets more angry about some gaffe that the vice president made in a debate than she does actually about these mass shootings. It's true, actually. Dana Loesch tweeted more about the Democrats last night and her anger towards Joe Biden and some mistakes that he made. She tweeted more about that than if 10 people die in a church. That's Dana Loesch for you. You know what that's called, folks? That's called character. And it's why the NRA hired Dana Loesch for years to be their spokesperson, because she is an evil, horrific human being. But the point I'm trying to make is this. Joe Biden makes a mistake yesterday in the debate. That's a mistake. That's a gaffe. It's a mistake. It's no mistake when Bernie Sanders doubles down on his comments in regards to Fidel Castro. And he did it again last night on the stage. That's not a mistake. That's how Bernie Sanders feels. And Bernie Sanders clearly has no problem, and I mean no problem, in praising an evil, murderous dictator. Well, guess what? I have a problem with that. And you should have a problem with that, too. The number to call is 702-257-5396. Again, that number, if you do want to be a part of the conversation, it is 257-5396. It is one of many reasons of why I would never vote for Bernie Sanders. No, I don't believe $15 an hour minimum wage is fair. I don't think it's reachable for many small businesses out there. I think that's a problem. No, I don't think free college is going to work. Now, if you want to make the claim, and it's a fair claim, and if you want to say that college is way too expensive, we have too many students that are in debt, and if you want to do something about that, and you want to help student debt, if you want to do something about that, and if you think college should be cheaper, then that's fine. But when you say free college for all, it just doesn't make any sense. It makes 0 sense to me, literally 0. And I'm sorry, you're just not going to win the presidency with those types of policies. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And I don't think ever, and I mean ever, in this political spectrum, we should have a politician, now whether that is Donald Trump or Bernie Sanders, never should have a politician that is openly, publicly praising an evil, murderous dictator. 257-5396. Now let's go to the calls, and let's go to Linda. Linda, you are first up on the Vegas Take. Go ahead, Linda.
Hey, hi, Brian. I just want to ask you, I've been in Nevada for, maybe 42 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And why do you think it was that the people of Nevada voted him to win in the caucus? I just can't comprehend that at all.
Well, Linda, I think it's a fair question, and I think it's the same reason why Bernie Sanders has support throughout the country, maybe not the same support he had here in Nevada, and that is this: millennials. That's the one word I can give you. I think he got a lot of young people involved. If you look at his demographic of voters, many of them are not over the age of 30. The majority of people that support Bernie Sanders are under the age of 30. For whatever reason, the millennials like Bernie Sanders. That's the best explanation I can give. It's the only explanation.
What about the union members? I mean, they have to totally be against him, you would think, if they're threatening they're threatening the insurance.
Well, certainly those members are not Bernie Sanders supporters. I don't speak for all of them, but I think logically we would say the majority of them are not. Like I said, when you look at all the young people that are involved in politics today, many of them are involved because of two people, Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. And I'm telling you right now, they did a study on this, Linda. The average age of a Bernie Sanders supporter is in his or her mid-20s. I mean, that's the best answer I could give you.
Oh, boy.
Yeah,
well,
I mean, that's it.
We're in big trouble.
Well, I mean, I don't know if we're in big trouble per se. You're entitled to your opinion, but I'm not a supporter of many of his policies. I'll say that. I don't know if it's big trouble, but Linda, that's the best answer I could give you. I hope it was suitable enough for you. I really don't know, Linda. I really don't know how else to answer that question. I'll be honest with you. It's millennials. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Your thoughts on Bernie Sanders, his comments on Fidel Castro, his comments on praising an evil, murderous dictator. Are you okay with that? Let's go to Barry. Barry, you are next on the Vegas Take. What's going on? I think we want Barry. Barry, are you there? Barry, did we do? Go ahead, Barry.
First of all, I wanted to correct something I heard from a couple of days ago. I'm very new to your show. I love your show. You mentioned something about $29,000, a 50% tax rate over that. And I did some fact checking. I went to his website, and that is not the case.
He claims
what he supports is the current tax rate structure, and then making an adjustment for your income that's over $250,000. He proposes 3 more different rates.
So Barry, you're right.
37 to 40%, from 40% to 45 or 50%, and then anything over 10 million is where he starts taxing at 52%.
So Barry, you would have been right until recently when he's been pressed on this issue, and he asked, "Where's the other $25 billion or $1 trillion come from, and how are you able to have Medicare for all?" He gave some paperwork to Chris Cuomo on the CNN stage in the debate hall last week. And what he said in that literature, and apparently he hasn't updated it on his website, how we get the other half of that money is taxing middle-class America upwards of 50% if you make more than $29,000 a year. Now, you may be right. He may not have updated that on his website, but Pete Buttigieg and many in the Democratic Party have said, where's all this money going to come from? You've only given us half of where it's going to come from. And you're right. What you just told me is where he would get half of it. Where's the other half coming from? And he recently stated that he might have to tax people that are making over $29,000 and upwards of 50% so they can have free health care, free medical care. And his response is you're going to save more money in the long run if you're that person making $29,000 a year because you're not going to have to pay for health care. That was his response over the course of the last week.
I'm going to guess that he didn't refute it more concisely, and because there's two different things being talked about here. Because the $29,000 is actually, he's saying, if you look on his website and go through, anyone making $29,000 with 2 kids would not be taxed a cent. And just as it currently is, I think, just through standard deductions and so forth. So that's being mixed in, and I heard there were some memes on the internet that talked about just supposing the $29,000 figure with the 52% tax rate.
Perhaps he didn't, and it's very possible, Barry, that he didn't articulate himself as well as he should have. I could certainly only go by.
I think that's the case.
Well, and that's possible. I mean, I can only go by what the man says. Let me ask you this question before I let you go: Are you a Bernie Sanders supporter? Will you be voting for him?
I was 4 years ago. I'm a Pete Buttigieg fan.
As am I.
I caucused for him. I would definitely be voting for Bernie Sanders over Trump.
And by the way, Barry, Pete Buttigieg's brother-in-law, Pastor Rhyan will be joining us coming up next segment. But in regards to Bernie Sanders, I have to ask you this because it bothers me. I want to find out if it bothers you. When he praises an evil, murderous dictator like Fidel Castro, like he did last night on the stage, like he did on 60 Minutes, does that bother you? Because certainly it bothers me. Go ahead.
I think he made it clear that he is against authoritarianism, whether it's from the right or the left, and he may not have stressed that enough. I wish he would have stressed it more.
But Barry, I believe him.
Castro was a murderous dictator. But the part where he parses, and just like Barack Obama did, and says, yes, he did some good for enhancing literacy and that part, no problem with it. Even the most evil people like Laura Ingraham and Donald Trump have good sides to them.
Well, I'm not going to compare Donald Trump, and as much as I despise Laura Ingraham, I'm not going to compare her to Fidel Castro. Keep in mind, Fidel Castro is again, I'll say it again, he's an evil, murderous dictator, and I appreciate the call, Barry, but that's troubling to me. I have a problem with any politician, anybody saying anything positive about a man who's killed thousands, if not tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of his own people. I have a major problem with that. And just because they had some literacy program, and by the way, it's very fair to question Fidel Castro's intentions to this literacy program. He told them what they could or couldn't read. He's the one who told them that. He's the one who monitored them. There were other intentions involved, and I don't believe Fidel Castro just wanted to help his own people. He certainly killed many of his own people. And I have a problem with anybody, just like I have a problem with Donald Trump kissing the ass of Vladimir Putin. When has he ever said anything negative about Vladimir Putin? Ever. I mean, ever. Well, he's sanctioned Russia. He's tougher on Russia than any other president. Then how about being tough face-to-face with the guy? Siding with Kim Jong-un. Bernie Sanders is now on that list, as far as I'm concerned. When you kiss the ass of an evil, murderous dictator, you deserve backlash for it. That's exactly what Bernie Sanders did on 60 Minutes, and he doubled down on it last night on the debate stage. Your thoughts on that at 257-5396. Let's go to Brady. Brady, you're next up on the Vegas Take.
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen. I think Howdy Booty would make a great VP for the communist Krusty Sanders.
I'm sorry, I don't even know what you just said. Booty? What are you talking about?
Oh, I married Pete. I call Howdy Booty.
So you're mocking him for being a homosexual?
No.
Oh, it has nothing to do with that.
He looked a lot like Howdy Doody. I just kind of rhymed it a little bit different to upgrade it
and I'm sure that has nothing to do with his sexual preference, right, Brady?
Nothing at all, Brian.
Right, yeah,
You're always stuck on that.
Sure. Well, you called him Booty, just like Rush Limbaugh, a page out of Rush Limbaugh's evil, racist, homophobic playbook. So forgive me for just assuming that you're mocking him because of his sexuality. What are your problems with Pete Buttigieg? I'm just curious.
I don't think he has near the experience. I don't like any of his values.
Really?
I don't like what he thinks on the open borders, the sanctuary.
He doesn't believe in open borders, so I don't know what you're talking about.
I just don't like anything about him.
Well, tell me. Okay. So let's go one by one. You don't like Pete Buttigieg's experience. Did you have a problem with Donald Trump's experience? Because he never served in the military. He dodged the military. He had no political experience. Pete Buttigieg at least was a mayor, and he served this country honorably. So did you have a problem with Donald Trump's experience?
No, because we got a businessman who knows what he's doing.
Right. Of course not. And we have a guy that's a war. And we have a guy that's a war hero, and a guy that dodged the military because of bone spurs.
He drove a taxi Uber in Afghanistan.
Right. Okay, Brady. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, we are moving on, Brady, because I just hung up on you, and we're going to go to our next caller. That is what we call moving on. 257-5396. We're going to go to George. George, you're next up on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, Brian. How's it going, man?
Good, man.
I just wanted to. I've just heard like a headline or a couple things about some of these papers that are surfacing, or I guess they've been out there for a long time about Bernie's fantasies about women being raped or something like that. I don't know if you have read up on that.
I heard a little bit about that. I'll be honest with you. I'm not very familiar with it. What I am familiar with is that the guy likes to praise evil, murderous dictators. I have a serious problem with that.
Well, the thing is, it sounds like I don't know. I didn't really pay attention too much to the last campaign, 2016, but
Right.
a little bit more about his mind and back when he was younger, hanging out around libraries on the internet, kind of being a lurker type.
Yeah,
of,
see, I don't want to comment on that because it's speculation. You know what I mean, George? I don't really want to go there. I like to talk about things that, for the most part, we know are fact and fiction. And what we know is that Bernie Sanders, again, has praised an evil, murderous dictator, and he doubled down on it yesterday. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with some of his policies. $15 an hour minimum wage, free college for all. I just don't think that's going to work. And those are my issues with George. With Bernie, George, whether he was lurking in libraries or not, I'm not going to comment on that because I have no idea whether that's true or not.
I just looked it up. I guess the essay in '72 that he did write, I guess back in '72 about women being raped and why they would like to be raped. I guess that's a fact.
Well, let me be clear. Anybody who ever makes a statement like that, it's completely beyond idiotic. But if it is true, George, here's the question I would ask you. If it is true, why haven't any of the Democrats or Fox News commented on it? That's what makes me think it's not true. Do you see what I'm saying, George?
Yep. Exactly, yeah.
Well, George, I appreciate you calling in, though. Thank you very much. 702-257-5396. Trust me, if Bernie Sanders praised rape, which I don't think he did, Fox News, Laura Ingraham, Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, they would all be all over it. They'd be talking about it on the show. I promise you that. 257-5396. Let's go to Jesus. Jesus, you are next up on the Vegas Take. What's up?
Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Good, man. What's on your mind?
Hey, no, I'm just in agreement with, how you feel about Bernie Sanders, disgusting, disappointed and all that, because my brother-in-law, he's Cuban. He spent good 10, 12 years in a Cuban prison for the big crime of trying to escape the island on a homemade raft.
Oh, my goodness gracious. That's awful.
Him and his cousin, they were tired of the Cuban regime, the rationing,
right.
the starvation.
I don't blame him.
And him and his cousin, they got together. They made a makeshift raft, and they tried to escape on the raft. Unfortunately, they couldn't get out of the Cuban waters, and they were floating there for 3 or 4 days. And
yeah, well, sadly, and by the way, Jesus, I'm sorry to hear that. It sounds like your brother has some guts. Donald Trump, not to make a bad joke out of a horrible situation, but Donald Trump wouldn't respect your brother because he was captured, right?
Yeah, he fortunately he got out. My wife, who's also Cuban, of course.
Yes, sir.
She sponsored him. Okay, so meaning that once he got out of prison, she was going to take care of him, and they got out through the Catholic Church. Well, he got out.
Right.
He did his time.
So can I ask you something? Do you talk to your brother now on a regular basis?
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
what would your brother, Jesus? What do you and your brother say when you see a presidential candidate, whether it's Donald Trump or Bernie Sanders, praising an evil, murderous dictator, in this case, Fidel Castro?
Oh no, he's disgusted like I am, like you are, and
right.
He doesn't he doesn't support that. He's all American now. He's a 100% American citizen. He votes.
Yeah. But Jesus, do you understand? And I appreciate your answer. Do you understand where I'm coming from, though? Because see, to me, this is the Donald Trump category, where Donald Trump praises, Vladimir Putin, and he says all these great things about Kim Jong-un and Fidel Castro. To me, Bernie Sanders is now in that group. Any politician who praises anybody who is a murderer, in this case, an evil dictator, to me, needs to go in the same category. I put Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump in that same category when it comes to this issue. You think that's fair?
I think it is. I'm not in agreement with how Donald Trump was supporting Putin, and then trying to be buddy with the North Korean dictator,
right.
Kim Jong, whatever his name is. But
right.
I couldn't agree on that part. Yeah.
Well, Jesus, let me just say this, my friend. And by the way, I do appreciate the phone call. Thank you very much. I'm glad that your brother is safe now. It sounds like your brother's got some gonads. He's got some guts. Trying to escape that horrible regime, the Fidel Castro regime. I'm sorry that, 11 years of his life had to be in captivity because he tried to get the hell out of there. I don't blame him 1 second. Bernie Sanders needs to speak to people like your brother. Bernie Sanders needs to talk to somebody like your brother that was captive for 11 years trying to get out of that regime. Thank you so much for your story, and thank you for that phone call. Hey, speaking of brothers, we've got Pete Buttigieg's brother-in-law up next. His name is Pastor Rhyan Glesman. He has his own opinions about Mayor Pete. He says Mayor Pete is a sinner. He'll explain why coming up next on the Vegas Take. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after these words. To the Vegas Take, 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit beefy, or even with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Affordable term life insurance is out there. Call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-481-1458. 800-481-1458 or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too.
When Allstate agents and employees go to work every day, their number one priority is protecting what matters most to you. For military veterans, that instinct to protect also comes naturally. No wonder thousands of veterans build good careers with Allstate. And now, Allstate is ranked the number one employer on the 2020 Military Friendly Employers list. You're in good hands with Allstate.
For career opportunities or to get a quote, contact Allstate today. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Italy is taking dramatic steps after hundreds have contracted the coronavirus and at least a dozen have died from it since last Friday. More from correspondent Ben Wiedemann in Rome.
Schools, universities, museums are closed to avoid people assembling and perhaps spreading the germs. Today is Ash Wednesday. There are no Ash Wednesday masses taking place. So there are being measures taken to try to stop the spread of the disease.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention today says there were 6 more cases of the coronavirus among citizens evacuated from the Diamond Princess cruise ship, taking the total number of confirmed cases among Americans to 59. President Trump plans to address the nation on the status of the coronavirus later today. On Wall Street, the Dow is up today about 100 points at this hour. I'm Mike Moss.
It's time to check the roads.
From the Leonard and Rowe Traffic Studio.
This report sponsored by your Southern Nevada Chevy dealer. Slowing for a crash on I-15 northbound at Lamb Boulevard. Also an accident, injury sustained reported Alta at Durango. And an accident with injuries at Centennial at Ann Road. Also, police working to clear the crash reported at Rainbow Boulevard southbound, south of the 95. Celebrate President's Day at your Southern Nevada Chevy dealers. Choose from great cashback or lease offers or even low APR financing. Hurry to a Southern Nevada Chevy dealer and drive away in a new Chevrolet. John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
Listen to the Texas Corners Bible Church every Saturday night at 11 p.m. and Sunday night at 10 p.m. on 101.5 FM, 720 a.m. KDON.
Have you been lied to by Washington politicians and the Wall Street propaganda machine? Hi, I'm Inc. Magazine bestselling author Brett Kitchen. And if you're over 55 with an IRA or 401k, I want to give you a free copy of my new book, Wealth Beyond Wall Street, because according to Time Magazine, Wall Street's 401ks have failed millions of Americans. After losing 35% in my IRA in the crash years ago, I said enough. And since then, I discovered a way to grow money potential double digits, reduce taxes dramatically, and also have my money protected when the next stock market crash hits. When the next market crash hits, you lose nothing. Call Wealth Beyond Wall Street now to get your free book and talk to a specialist to discover this little-known strategy to get potential double-digit growth during good years and never lose in the next market crash.
Call 800-436-8181 to discover this asset that people like Walt Disney and JCPenney use to grow wealthy. Plus, get one of just 97 free books left. We even cover shipping and handling, no credit card required. Call 800-436-8181. 1-800-436-8181. That's 1-800-436-8181.
This is Harry Jacobs from Credit Restoration of Nevada, inviting you to join me for the Credit Show, Saturday mornings between 9 and 10, here on the new 101.5 FM and 720 AM, KDON.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro on a Wednesday. So glad you could join us. There are not many people on that stage that I said I would support to become the next president of the United States, but Pete Buttigieg is certainly somebody that I admire and that I respect for a lot of different reasons. But there are some people out there that are not happy with the fact that he happens to be, for example, a homosexual. Some people are calling him a sinner, and one of those people happens to be in his family. We have Pete Buttigieg's brother-in-law who joins us now on the line. His name is Pastor Rhyan Glesman. We'd like to hear his case, and we appreciate you, Pastor Glesman, for taking the time to join us. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you for that.
Yeah, appreciate
I am
appreciate it.
curious. That opening statement there, that was a little interesting, calling him a sinner. That was interesting. So
Well,
hopefully
correct
we
me.
can talk about
Well,
that.
correct me. Well, that's why I wanted to have you on, Pastor, and I appreciate. So you've called him a sinner before, haven't you?
Oh, not in the exact terminology.
Okay.
We have many disagreements. We are all sinners. We've all fallen short of the glory of God. That's every
Sure.
single one of us. We're
Okay.
all sinners.
Fair enough. So give me your definition. Before we do that, how are you related to Pete Buttigieg? Can you just give us some background on that?
Yeah, Pete is married to my brother Chasten. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
That's the connection we have there.
Okay, so your thoughts on Pete Buttigieg? You've made appearances on television and you've spoken out about Pete and some of the issues you have with Pete. Make the case for us. What do you like about your brother-in-law, and what do you dislike about him?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Pete and I have cordial interactions in the past and in the future. I don't see it change any different. And my goal for speaking now is to focus on issues and ideas. And my biggest problem, my biggest disagreement with Pete is I believe that his vision for America will not lead to our country's flourishing. I don't think it'll, the big issue for me is the sanctity of human life. If we're going to take it to such an extreme level, I just don't think that's going to be in our country's best interest for a country to flourish if we can't even uphold the dignity and respect of every single human being, and that includes children in the womb. That's probably my biggest disagreement I have with Pete.
All right, and fair enough, and I do want to get into that with you with abortion because that's a very important issue, Pastor. I'm sure you would agree with that. Let's talk about when you hear the word pastor, right? When the average person hears the word pastor, a lot of people are going to say, and I hate to use this term, but I'm going to use it anyway, anti-gay, right? Anti-homosexual. So the fact that your brother-in-law and your brother are gay, does that enter into this equation at all?
I mean, listen, when we look at someone seeking the highest office in the land, the presidency, I don't think we should vote for anyone, whether they're gay, straight, black, white. Any nationality does not determine whether someone is fit for presidency. So to answer your question, no, by him being gay has nothing to do with my disagreement for him seeking the office.
Well, I'm happy to hear you say that because there have been some right-wing talk show hosts like Rush Limbaugh who have chastised your brother and your brother-in-law. So I want to ask you about that, and then we'll get to some other issues. Rush Limbaugh goes on his radio program, millions and millions of listeners, and he pretty much mocks Pete Buttigieg, saying he wants to kiss his husband on stage, his husband being your brother, regardless of policy differences. And I understand that, and we'll get into that. Doesn't that bother you at all, Pastor Glesman, that Rush Limbaugh is putting your brother and your brother-in-law's sexuality and mocking them?
Well, I don't think we should be mocking anyone. And I actually have not heard that clip or seen that personally, so I'm not going to speak directly on that. I can tell you as a pastor, I do believe that sexual intimacy is between a man and a woman, but that doesn't make me go out and speak negative to anyone.
Right.
We're supposed to uphold the dignity and respect of all people.
Sure.
And I do take that very seriously. I might have a difference of opinion, but I believe all people are created equal, but all ideas are not equal. That's the way I'll put that.
And that's completely fair, and you're entitled to that. I would never take that opinion away from you. And my problem, Pastor, is not people like you. It's the people that will look at somebody based on what they look like or their sexuality and demean them or treat them differently. That's my only. And you don't sound like the kind of guy that would do that. So let's talk about some of those issues, and let me explain to you why I like Mayor Pete. I like him because, and maybe we'll agree more than we disagree on this, but I think Mayor Pete is extreme. Maybe not, but and that's
okay. I was just sorry for interrupting you.
No, that's quite all right. I think Mayor Pete is extremely intelligent. I think he's extremely eloquent. He's well spoken. I don't think he would embarrass the country. And I do think there are a lot of things that Donald Trump has done that have embarrassed the country, such as attacking women based on looks, such as attacking POWs, Gold Star families, immigrants. I don't see Mayor Pete as that guy. Yes, he's only been a mayor, but then again, Donald Trump has never been in politics before either. The fact that he served this country honorably should be very, very important to all Americans, regardless of whether you support Mayor Pete for president or not. So those are some of the qualities that I really respect Mayor Pete for. Now, obviously, you disagree with his stance on abortion. Let's talk about that. So go into the depths about that, about abortion and why you are pro-life.
Well, I mean, for me, it's extremely clear. This is not an issue of not understanding. It's just if we really just look at the Bible, I know, not to come on here and shove the Bible down anybody's throat, but in Psalm 139, verses 13 says, we were fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God. I believe that every single person has intrinsic value by our Creator. We've all been created by God. And one of my biggest disagreements is when people start opening the Bible and trying to use Scripture to justify abortion. I have a real issue with that, because now we're using, we always get labeled as weaponizing the Bible. To be very honest with you, I preach the gospel, and politics really are secondary to me. I enjoy politics. I enjoy following them. So that's a big disagreement I have. Now, if people want to be pro-choice, they're for abortion, that's one thing, but then to try to use the Bible to justify it, that's where I have the real issue, and that's where I do speak out against them. And, I do. I really appreciate anyone who serves this country. And, my middle brother, Dustin, serves our military with his wife, serves the military, and Pete serves the military. And I am in debt to them. I think that's wonderful what they do for our country. And that's why I stick to ideas. All ideas are not the same, and that's where I have a big difference with Pete.
Sure.
Obviously I'm pro-life, and I'm a big advocate for life.
And I understand that. Let's dive more into that. If you're just joining us, we're speaking with Pastor Rhyan Glisman. He is the brother-in-law of Pete Buttigieg. Let's talk a little bit about rape and incest. Horrible things that happen in our society, but as I'm sure you would admit, sadly, they do happen. I personally believe, especially if you're a young girl or anybody for that matter, that is brutally raped, I don't believe anybody should tell you you should be forced to have that child. I think that's a decision that woman and that family should have. You disagree with that?
I do disagree. And again, you did correctly say this is an issue, or this is an event that happened that I think you would agree. We don't wish this on anyone.
No, of course not.
It never happened. But if we're going to be pro-life, I don't think the child should be punished for the results of rape or just a terrible situation of that. That's my stance. I know people will disagree with me. Even people in the Christian faith might disagree. That's just my personal convictions, that I believe that we're to stand up for all human life. Now, again, I don't wish that on absolute. That is a terrible. And when we look at the abortion industry, that's a very, very small amount of children who are aborted because of that. Actually, the majority of people actually choose life in those circumstances. So that's just where I stand on that. And I know that I don't know what your audience is like, but I know many people will disagree with me, and that's okay. That's just my conviction.
Well, I mean, this is a conservative radio station, so it certainly wouldn't surprise me if the majority of people agreed with you or not. I mean, that certainly doesn't change my personal opinions. And like you said, it's a personal opinion. I guess this is my issue with this whole topic, Pastor, with all due respect. It's a personal issue. Now, I would never take that right away from you or anyone in your family. If you don't want anyone in your family to get an abortion, whether that's your daughter or your granddaughter, totally cool. That's your personal opinion. What I do have a problem with are people that are religious, not necessarily you, but a lot of people that I know that are religious that want to push their beliefs on others. I have a problem with that. It is my personal opinion, and I know it's not yours, that in the womb, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that's not a human being. I also do not agree with late-term abortion. I think it's disgusting. I think it's disgusting when women use abortion as birth control, and sadly there are some women out there. That is disgusting. I think within 4 months, a woman should have the right to choose. I'll give you a perfect example, Pastor. A friend of mine, her son, 17 years old, just impregnated his 17-year-old girlfriend. He didn't even want to be with her to begin with, let alone get married and have a child. Both families got together. Even though one of those families is against abortion, they didn't want to adopt the child because they didn't want 5-10 years down the road knowing that they had a child out there and they can't be the father or the mother of that child. Both of those families got together. Both of those kids got together, and they felt like it was the best in their interest to have a perfectly legal, not a late-term abortion. That's what they did. It was a difficult decision. I don't think anybody enjoys having an abortion. But in that specific situation, both families have concluded they made the right decision. So I'm not going to go to them and say, nope, you made the wrong decision. You committed a sin. Do you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, I see where you're going. And obviously we can have stories on both sides to kind of make our case and point, obviously, right?
Sure, of course.
I would highly push back on you respectfully that science proves that life is at conception. So if we're going to say that down the road that's not a human life up until so many weeks, well, that's going against science. And science proves that that's life. It's just at a certain stage in development. You know, because I hear the case a lot where, well, that you know, whatever you want to, label it, embryo or zygote, well, those are just descriptive words that are stage of development. Well, I have an 8-year-old son. I wouldn't leave my son alone in the home by himself in the hope that he's going to survive just fine. He is still in process of becoming an adult. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. We just disagree. I think if that life, as you call it, cannot survive outside the womb, then I don't think it's a human being. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, and that's my point. My 8-year-old can't survive on his own, and he's out of the womb. So,
well, your 8-year-old, if your 8-year-old was out on the street, he would probably survive a lot better than an embryo or something that is inside the womb at 2 or 3 weeks. I guess that's the point. I guess that's the point. But listen, we can disagree on that. That's fine.
Absolutely. That's okay.
You sound like you're reasonable. What I don't like are people that are unreasonable that push everything down somebody's throat. If you don't want to vote for your brother-in-law, Pete Buttigieg, because of that issue, that's your right, and I would never take that away from you. So what else, as far as Pete Buttigieg's platform is concerned, can we discuss that you disagree with?
Well, it was a little concerning last night hearing all of them talk about maybe possibly removing Israel. Not removing Israel, but not being in Israel. That's a huge one that I very much want a president who's pro-Israel. I want a president who's pro-God, and I want a president who is pro-religious freedom. And another big one is, now listen, this religious freedom, if we start diving into this Pete's proposals, he wants to, we're just talking about forcing other people to go against our convictions. I, as a pastor, I do not support same-sex marriage. I believe sexual intimacy is between a man and a woman. That's my personal conviction. Now, there's churches down the road from where I live that they will affirm, they'll celebrate, and they will marry same-sex couples. I'm never going to fight that. That is, to me, what religious freedom. If someone else wants to support that, they can go on. What I do have a problem with is writing these laws and these religious freedom stances to say that every single place of faith must marry, no matter what your conviction is. If you don't agree with same-sex, marriage, you have to marry them because that's now going to be the law. That's where I will stand up, and that's a huge pushback I'm going to have with Pete's stance on his religious freedom reform.
So what is it? Okay, fair enough. What is the difference between a pastor or anybody that refuses to marry 2 men or 2 women because they're gay, and if somebody walks into your church and refuses to marry somebody because of the color of their skin? Aren't they both discrimination?
Oh, that's 2 extremes, and I'll be very honest with you. I've refused to marry heterosexual marriages. I've had a man and a woman walk into my church, and this happens. I'm just not making this up. This happens quite often. They don't want to go through the proper steps that I will marry them, to go through the 8 weeks that I meet with the couple to talk with them. Again, people are going to do whatever they want on their own time anyways. I just want to make sure with my good conscience I give them the proper advice. So
Fair
this
enough.
isn't just the same sex. I have turned down people in straight marriage. And that's just...
And you have your personal reasons.
Turn down people
I get it.
because of the color of their skin.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
They
I
should
agree.
not be a pastor.
Okay,
They
well,
should not be a pastor.
we absolutely both agree on that one. And speaking of pastors, we're joined by Rhyan Gleasman. He is Pete Buttigieg's brother-in-law. In fact, it is his brother that is married to Mayor Pete. So let me ask you this, Pastor. You made some comments about Pete Buttigieg being anti-God, have you not? Can you kind of divulge into that a little bit? Why is Pete Buttigieg anti-God?
Well, I think it's clear that Pete is contradicting the Word of God. I mean, again, you can have your personal beliefs, but the Bible is very clear that sexual intimacy is between a man and a woman, according to the Bible. The Bible is very clear on murder, and that's what I believe abortion is. So to have these huge issues to kind of make them in the spotlight and make it seem like they're perfectly okay, to me that is anti-God. Now, that can be your opinion, that can be what your religion teaches, but it's not what the Word of God teaches, because I say it often, every Sunday I almost say it, that I hate man-made religion. I just really do. I hate man-made religion. I believe in the Word of God. I believe in every word in the Word of God. So that's what I mean by, and I don't believe that I said he's anti-God. I believe his policies and agenda and his rhetoric is anti-God.
Would you
and
say...
I stand behind that comment.
Fair enough. Would you say it's against the Word of God when Republicans out there are treating people differently? For example, the Muslim ban that Donald Trump put into effect. Would you say it's anti-God when Donald Trump decides to have sex with a porn star and then pay her $120,000 of hush money? And would you say that's anti-God? Would you say it's anti-God to go after POWs and war heroes like what Donald Trump said about John McCain? I understand your points in regards to your brother-in-law, but would that be the same when it comes to Donald Trump attacking women based on their looks, attacking immigrants, attacking Gold Star families, attacking John McCain? Is that also anti-God?
Oh, I mean, listen. I mean, I am not going to condone things that have happened in the past by Donald Trump, and I'm not going to say what he said is good. That does not line up with Scripture to be treating men and women in the way you just.
You understand why, Ryan? You understand why I'm asking you that, right? Because I just want to make sure that you're consistent, and because I respect you if you're consistent with that. What I have a problem with, and I'm not saying you're one of those people, Pastor. You sound reasonable. What I have a problem with are the people out there that want to attack your brother-in-law, Pete Buttigieg, for being gay, that want to attack your brother-in-law for those types of issues, but yet they keep their mouths shut when it comes to Donald Trump having several ex-wives, cheating, the adultery, the horrible things he has said about women and on their looks, etc. You get why I'm asking you that, right?
I absolutely do, and I think it's a good question. And I don't, at least in my circle of influence, the people that I talk to, I don't think you have anyone going out there saying what, these things that you're bringing up about Donald Trump are great things. I don't think you're going to find anybody say that Donald Trump is the best Sunday school teacher out there either. The things that I do, reasons evangelicals do support Trump is he is pro-life, he is pro-religious freedom, he is pro-Israel, and he is, for the most part, pro-God in his stances.
Sure.
Now, you're going to put up anybody on that debate stage, and we can pick apart anybody, right? I think we can agree on that. I think
for different reasons.
My life, your life, we have all fallen short of the glory of God.
Maybe, but I think
we have to weigh out these differences.
I agree with you. Nobody's perfect. I've never said anybody, including myself. But with that being said, I think there are certain levels. For example, I don't think there's anybody on that Democratic stage. I don't agree with a lot of them. But I can't recall any of them going after John McCain or a POW because they were captured. And I can't recall any of those men up there on that stage, including your brother-in-law, by the way, that has committed consistent adultery with several ex-wives or husbands and having sex with porn stars 2 months after his wife has a child. I think there are different levels of sins, and I think there are different levels of human beings, of good people and bad people, and so on and so forth. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. No, I don't think you're far off by saying that at all.
Right. Fair enough. Again, Pastor Ryan Gleesman joining us. A few more questions for him. He is the brother-in-law to Pete Buttigieg. Now, we're going to disagree a little bit on abortion, and that's fine. You stated your case eloquently, and I respect it. Here's my problem with some Republicans, not you, some Republicans. They want to use the term pro-life, and then as soon as that baby is born, they want to cut food stamps for parents that need it. They want to cut welfare, right? They want to cut all these different programs that could help the mother take care of that child. I say if you're going to be pro-life, be consistent on that. My word is consistent. That is my problem with it. I mean, what do you say to that?
Yeah, and again, I mean, there's case by case. I would just tell you from my point of view, I would classify myself as a conservative Republican. You probably caught that. And my wife and I are very actively involved in the foster care system. We had foster children, and we get involved with the families and the kids. But yes, I agree. But I do think there has to be some level of, and there's extremes on both sides, but I do think there's some abuse in the system that, I mean, this is a complex issue. But no, I don't think we should be cutting food stamps and people who need it. But I do think we also, and I'm not a politician, I don't know the best way to deal with it. But I do, I personally see in our church that people do abuse the system. We have to figure out a way to weed that through. I'm all about empowering people. I want people to survive on their own. I want them to be able to feed their families on their own and not be on assistance. But that assistance should be there. I 100% agree with you. To be pro-life is for all human life.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And at the border crisis, that's a complex issue. And oh my gosh, I don't know if we want to dive. I don't think we have time to dive into all that. But I'm very much in support of every person should be coming in. We should be taking care of every single person. And that's my stance on that. It's a complex issue.
No question. No question. And by the way, I'm glad to hear that you and your wife have done those things to help people. I think that's very important, and you should be commended for that. I want to ask you this. How would you feel, and this might be a loaded question, how would you feel if your brother was the first man of the United States? How would that make you feel? Because there's a chance that could happen, right? I mean, how would that make you feel?
Yeah, that is a good question. I haven't gave it a whole lot of thought. But listen, whoever is commander-in-chief, I will respect them. I will pray for them. I mean, listen, I didn't support Obama. I didn't think he was, the pick. I don't think he was the best pick for a presidency. But listen, I prayed for him. You know what I mean? And I respected him as a leader. I might disagree with him. And that'd be the same thing if my brother, if Pete got to be president, if that happened to come to fruition, I'd pray for him. I'd hope that God's hand would be on him to lead this country, and I would respect him as I think all Americans should do, and I would ask the same from if Trump becomes elected. I would hope the country's, I mean, this is our commander-in-chief. I think we should be, he is our president, whether people like it or not.
Yeah.
I think that creates more unity. Now, you obviously might have disagreements with Trump, and listen, I think everyone's got disagreements, and there's things pro and against any candidate.
Yeah, I guess for me,
if that makes any sense.
Absolutely, that makes complete sense. Let me be on the record in saying I've rooted for the president to succeed. When he was voted into office, I hope that he would, tone down the rhetoric, and because if he succeeds, then the country succeeds. I've never been against the president succeeding. I am against his rhetoric and the things he says, the things he does and says on a regular basis. There's no doubt about that. I got to ask you this because this is a little bit unorthodox. It's not normal that I'm interviewing somebody, their brother-in-law is running for the president of the United States, and you have made some appearances. For example, you were on the Tucker Carlson show not that long ago, and you are, I'm not going to say you're being negative, but you're being honest, the things about Pete Buttigieg that you don't like about the guy. So, at least his policies. Let me, have you had conversations with your brother and your brother-in-law about that? Have they been frustrated with you about that? Have they talked to you about that? Have they said to you, well, why are you going after my brother, Pete, my husband, Pete Buttigieg? Have those conversations happened between you and your brother?
They haven't happened since the campaign trail, to be honest with you, but my views have always been this way, whether Pete was running or not. And think about any family who's going to have disagreements in politics. I mean, we all know when we get around the table that there's going to be disagreements, and they've always been cordial. They state their case, I state my case, and that's always just been the extent of it.
But what made you, and I totally understand that, but you understand my question. It's a different level when you're making appearances on national TV shows talking about it. We're not talking about the dinner table. So what made you decide to do that?
Well, no, that's probably a better question than I guess the first one.
Right.
What I want to steward my platform well. We all have influence. Every single person on the planet, I believe, has a platform, and everyone's looking up to someone. So for me, my biggest issue, like we talked before, is this: I am pro-life, Pete is pro-choice, but then when Pete starts pulling in scripture, to me, I just think that's very dangerous. I think it's leading people astray from what the actual Bible says. Now, again, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but if you're pro-choice, then that's your opinion. That's okay. That's your opinion.
Right.
Just don't use the Bible to justify it, because I think.
Well, I would never do that.
There's a huge, and I'm not saying you are.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's why I go on national TV to speak out about that and say, hey, no, this is what the Bible actually says. And that's a huge dichotomy in Pete is. Yeah. To use the Bible to support that, that's just very dangerous.
Well, I agree with you. I agree with you there. And, I never quote the Bible, and maybe it's because I'm not an extremely religious person. I quote maybe my parents, my family. My parents are the ones that gave me values. As I said, I'm not an extremely religious person. I'm not an atheist. I do believe that there is a God out there. At least I would like to believe that there is a God out there. But my thing on religion is I don't shape my life based on the Bible or a book. I don't base my life. And we're all very different when it comes to that. But some of us have same values. I think we should treat people with respect, as you believe as well, regardless of what you look like, regardless of what your gender or sexuality is. And I think we agree, Pastor, to be honest with you, on more things than we disagree on. And I think that's important. I think we both have problems with the extreme left and the extreme right, because the radicals on both sides of the aisle try to influence too many people. I think we need to be more middle grounded. And let me just say this, too. I appreciate you taking some time to join us and speak your opinions eloquently. I think you should also go on CNN, to be honest with you. I mean, I know you've been on Tucker Carlson's show. I think it would do some justice for Pete, for you, and for everybody if you were on MSNBC as well. I mean, is that something you'd be open to?
I'm open to anything to, articulate. Again, like I said, politics are secondary to me.
Right.
I know it might not look like that in the spotlight. But I enjoy politics. But yeah, I'm open to anything.
Good.
I responded to you guys pretty quickly, so I'm open to
I appreciate
share my opinions.
Yep.
I appreciate you. Good question. Thank you.
Pastor, thank you so much for taking some time to join us. We really do appreciate it. We'd love to have you on again sometime down the road, especially if your brother is the first man in the White House. Pastor Rhyan Glesman, thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. There you go. Pastor Rhyan Glesman, the brother-in-law to Pete Buttigieg. If you want to react to that interview, because I thought it was an interesting one at that, You can give us a call at 702-257-5396. Again, that number, 257-5396. Take a quick break. Be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take.
Sponsored by Palm Beach Research. Text and data rates may apply.
Judge Jeanine Pirro is a household name in the USA. You've seen her on Fox News and across the internet for years. Judge Pirro speaks her mind, and she doesn't mince words when it comes to hypocrisy from the deep state DC swamp. And now Judge Pirro is exposing the insiders and politicians who have been setting themselves up to make fortunes in the cannabis sector. In a surprising turn, dozens of DC insiders who have attacked marijuana for years are plowing millions into backdoor cannabis investments. Judge Pirro's exclusive expose on this cannabis conspiracy is yours free when you text JUDGE to 76280 now. We'll send you a link to a video presentation that shows you how you can take advantage of the same opportunities to profit that these DC insiders have been keeping to themselves. They have changed their thinking from lock 'em up to light 'em up. You can find out which companies are set for explosive growth. Text JUDGE to 76280. Get Judge Pirro's expose on the cannabis conspiracy. Text JUDGE to 76280 now.
Your home for Sean Hannity, KDWN Las Vegas, KKLZ HD2 Las Vegas, a Beasley Media Group station.
Too late. Markets move down. I'm Mike Moss. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is critical of the administration's efforts to inform the public about the coronavirus and combat the spreading illness. And she says the blame rests with the president.
What he's doing is late, too late, anemic. Hopefully we can make up for the loss of time, but it'll have to have the professionals in place, the resources that are adequate.
The administration requested $2.5 billion in emergency funding after its rapid response fund ran out. But lawmakers are considering a more robust package of more than $8 billion in emergency funding. At the White House, the president is preparing to address the nation about the virus later today.
The president has been watching the markets closely, and that's why sources tell us he's been downplaying it, because the president fears that if he does otherwise, it's only going to cause further chaos in the markets. And he tried to really reassure people after the Dow plunged over 1,000 points on Monday. But then when they saw, again, market losses on Tuesday, that is something that they have been watching closely over here.
The nations of Georgia, Pakistan, and Brazil reported their first coronavirus cases today. The U.S. government says 60 people are now infected in this country. Defense Secretary Mark Esper is defending the shift in billions in Pentagon spending to help build the southern border wall.
The president has determined that we have a national emergency on our southwest border, that to deal with that emergency, that we need a barrier system, that barrier system development, which is led by DHS, requires the support of DOD. And that's our role in this process, supporting DHS.
January was a good month for home builders. New sales rose 7.9%. Another down day on Wall Street. Things have turned around dramatically. The Dow is now down 165 points at this hour. I'm Mike Moss.
It's time to check the roads.
From the Lerner Road Traffic Studio.
This report sponsored by your Southern Nevada Chevy dealer. A crash reported on Centennial Center at Ann Road. Injury sustained. Police and fire are with the scene. And also an accident that was reported at Charleston at Sacramento. Looks like that's in the clearing stage, but still active. Watch for debris on the highway on the 215 at Charleston. This is going to be affecting southbound traffic. Celebrate President's Day at your Southern Nevada Chevy dealers and choose from a great cashback or lease offer or even low APR financing. Hurry to a Southern Nevada Chevy dealer and drive away in a new Chevrolet. I'm John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
It's open enrollment season, and Medishare is the Christian healthcare sharing ministry that saves most families about $500 a month. Google Medishare and see if it's a fit for you. Medishare, healthcare you can believe in.
Have you been lied to by Washington politicians and the Wall Street propaganda machine? Hi, I'm Inc. Magazine best-selling author Brett Kitchen, and if you're over 55 with an IRA or 401k, I want to give you a free copy of my new book, Wealth Beyond Wall Street, because according to Time Magazine, Wall Street's 401ks have failed millions of Americans. After losing 35% in my IRA in the crash years ago, I said enough, and since then I discovered a way to grow money potential double digits, reduce taxes dramatically, and also have my money protected when the next stock market crash hits. When the next market crash hits, you lose nothing. Call Wealth Beyond Wall Street now to get your free book and talk to a specialist to discover this little-known strategy to get potential double-digit growth during good years and never lose in the next market crash.
Call 800-436-8181 to discover this asset that people like Walt Disney and JCPenney use to grow wealthy. Plus, get one of just 97 free books left. We even cover shipping and handling, no credit card required. Call 800-436-8181. 1-800-436-8181. That's 1-800-436-8181.
Transform your bathroom in just one day with the experts at Reborn Bath Solutions. Reborn Bath Solutions has been serving Las Vegas for over 3 decades, and right now they're offering 50% off all labor and 1 full year with no interest and no payments. You can't beat that. Make your appointment online today at rebornbathsolutions.com, and they'll give you a $50 Bed Bath & Beyond gift card just for considering them. 50% off labor, 1 full year of no interest and no payments, plus a $50 Bed Bath & Beyond gift card. What are you waiting for? Reborn Bath Solutions. They bring the showroom to you with free in-home appointments at your convenience. Visit rebornbathsolutions.com today. That's rebornbathsolutions.com. Take advantage of this amazing offer. 50% off all labor, 1 full year of no interest and no payments, plus a $50 Bed Bath & Beyond gift card. Reborn Bath Solutions, where it's done right and done in a day.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDON. The opinions of the hosts on KDWN are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group. Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro, glad you could join us. Also broadcasting live on YouTube. Just go to the Vegas Take page on YouTube. Check out our website, thevegastake.com, where we post all of our interviews on Twitter, all over social media. The Vegas Take. Check us out. We just had Pastor Rhyan Glesman on the show. He is the brother-in-law to presidential candidate Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg's husband, the brother of Pastor Rhyan Glesman. We talked about a lot of issues, but he said that, because Pete Buttigieg is gay, that's not why he's not supporting him. Not because he's gay, not because he's married to his brother, but because of some of the issues like abortion, pro-life. Now, I completely disagree with the pastor. I don't think a human being is right at conception. I'm sorry, I just don't feel that way. I think so long as an abortion is done, and it's not done late term, it's done within 4 months or so, it's done responsibly, both parties are involved, the families are involved. I believe so long as it's done in that manner and women aren't using abortion as birth control, I see no problem with it, especially if it is done with both parties. I've always felt that way. Now, the pastor and I are going to disagree. I'm sure many evangelicals on the right are going to disagree with me, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with disagreeing. What I have a problem with is many people in their religion wanting to push their religion on you. I've always had a problem with that. I've always had a problem with people that think their God should be your God. It happens in the Middle East all the time. Look at people in the Middle East, some of them even terrorists that believe they're going to get 9 virgins when they go to heaven. Should we all believe that? Should we all believe in the Quran? Should we all believe in the Christian faith or the Jewish faith? I say no. I say believe in what you want to believe in. And that might not be with anything. You might not want to believe in God, and that's fine. If you want to be an atheist, that's okay too. I'm not an atheist. I believe that there is a God out there, but I don't run my life based on a book. I don't run my life based on what others tell me what I should or shouldn't do. I run my life based on my upbringing and how my family raised me, how my parents raised me. Not what a pastor tells me, not what a priest tells me, not what a rabbi tells me, what my family taught me. That is the way I live my life. And I certainly don't want laws put in place. And I certainly don't want people to tell me what I should or shouldn't do because of their faith, not mine. And that is what we see in society everywhere. It is what our vice president does. That's right. At one point in his life, Mike Pence, as a politician, believed in something that was going to be passed in Indiana called conversion therapy, to force homosexuals to be converted to being straight. At one point, Mike Pence supported that bill. That never passed, thank God, because it's ridiculous. And I don't want these kind of people as our policymakers. I don't want somebody that thinks life starts at conception to be running this country, to say, God forbid, if your daughter is raped, if your 13 or 14-year-old daughter is raped because of someone's belief, religious beliefs, they're going to force that child to have that baby? That's insane. Or in the situation of incest, to be forced to have that child is insane. Yes, I also think it's insane for a woman to wait 8 months to have an abortion. Yes, that's also insane. I also think it's insane for a woman to have 10 abortions in her life. Yes, I think that's insane. Disgusting is a word I would use. But we have to have some middle ground here, folks. Where is the middle ground? You're not going to marry somebody because they're gay, because their sexuality doesn't align to yours? That's insane. You're not going to make somebody a cake for their wedding because they're gay? That's insane. Believe whatever you want to believe. If you want to believe in the tooth fairy, go ahead. If you think Santa Claus is real, go ahead. Don't push your nonsense on me, because I don't buy it. If you want to believe in a fairy tale, you go ahead. I appreciate Pastor Rhyan Glesman coming on the show. I appreciate the fact that he stated his case, and he was very respectful, as I was very respectful to him. But I disagree with almost everything he said. I disagree with almost everything. He was making the case that I shouldn't have to marry a gay couple because they're gay. He was making the case of Pete Buttigieg being a sinner. But yet when I bring up Donald Trump and I bring up the infidelity, I bring up the ex-wives, I bring up the hush money payments, I bring up some of the horrible things he said about women and their looks. Well, yeah, I don't agree with that either, but you see, the conviction isn't as strong because his political beliefs align more with Donald Trump. So when Donald Trump cheats on his wife, when Donald Trump has unprotected sex with a porn star 2 months after his wife has a child, you're not going to hear many of the evangelical right comment on that. They'll say, well, I don't agree with it, but let's now talk more about Pete Buttigieg. And let's talk about Pete Buttigieg, the sinner. Let's not talk about Donald Trump. Let's not talk about his ex-wives. Let's not talk about the comments he said about women and their looks. Let's not talk about his attacks on POWs. Let's focus on Pete Buttigieg and the fact that he's gay. You see, folks, where I'm getting at here? You know what you call somebody like that? A hypocrite. Bias. That is my issue with those on the extreme evangelical right. You want to go after Pete Buttigieg for having a husband, right? But you're not going to go after Donald Trump for having a couple ex-wives that he cheated on. That you don't want to talk about. Or if you're forced to talk about it and you're pinned in a corner, you'll say, well, you know, he's not a choir boy. He's not perfect. But let's talk more about Pete Buttigieg. I have zero respect for people like that. I have zero respect for their opinions. And I'm glad that the pastor at least spoke out a little bit about Donald Trump. And he's right. He's not a choir boy. He's far from it. And I would say Donald Trump in his lifetime, if you're going to talk about the Bible, Donald Trump has committed many more sins in his life than Pete Buttigieg had. Oh, yeah, and by the way, Pete served this country honorably. Donald Trump is a coward. Your thoughts on that interview, 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Again, if you want to be a part of the conversation, now's the time to do it. Give us a buzz, 257-5396. And by the way, a reminder, coming up at the bottom of the hour, we're going to be speaking with UNLV assistant basketball coach Kevin Kruger. We're going to talk about the big game tonight. They're playing at the Thomas and Mack Center against Boise State. It is senior night. They're coming off of arguably the biggest win that UNLV has had in the last decade. They won on the road against San Diego State. Big win for UNLV. So Kevin will be joining us coming up at the bottom of the hour. And as I mentioned, we're taking your calls at 702-257-5396. Let's go to Steve. Steve, what is on your mind?
Oh,
yes,
Good
Steve.
morning,
Good morning,
Ryan.
Steve. Good morning, Steve. What's on your mind?
Well, I agree with you about the hypocrisy but some of the positions I don't always go along with. It seems like some people are prone to creating a non-existent situation to support their position, and that kind of upsets me from time to time, and that's why I called.
Can you give me an example of what you're talking about, just so we can be clear for the listeners?
Woman, of course I will. The woman's right to choose.
Mm-hmm. What about it?
now, I don't know about your individual case that you referenced during the discussion with the pastor.
Yes.
But the girl was what, 15, 16?
17.
17.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know her, and it's a rash assumption on my part. But I'll just bet that girl knew what could cause the baby, and she made a choice. She made a choice to spread her legs, engage in an activity that could create a child.
Yes, that's true. A lot of people make mistakes. I'm sure you would agree with that as well.
Now, once she made her choice, she says, "Oh no, I don't want the child. I want to get rid of the child or kill the child. I can't go along with that." You had a choice. You made it. That's not up to me. Your screener asked me what I thought. If it was my family, I'd make my thoughts known, but it's still their individual decision.
Right. Well, that's what this is about.
I don't think either one of us are the sin judge.
Well, I agree with you, but that's you and me, Stephen. There's a lot of people out there that want to call people sinners because they have abortions. In fact, there are Republicans out there that call women who have abortions murderers, which I completely disagree with.
Right. Can we return to the choice
go
issue?
ahead.
Because I don't think it exists. She made a choice. Now we're going to give her a second choice when her life's at stake.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Let's start from square one in regards to abortion. If a woman is raped or the victim of incest, should she be forced to have that child? Because that wasn't a choice.
I'm sorry. I moved my...
If a woman is raped or the victim of incest, that was not a choice of hers. Shouldn't she be able to have an abortion?
I would say probably under those circumstances.
Probably.
Obviously, it's not up to me, but I wouldn't.
Well, I
wouldn't necessarily be adamantly against it.
Okay, fair enough. So we started there. I think that's the most logical question I will ask somebody that is pro-life. Okay, so your opinion is if a teenager or someone that is not fit to be a mother, clearly in this specific situation I was talking about, she was not fit to be a mother, nor the financial, nor the wherewithal to be a mom. So she couldn't be a parent. Both of those families do not want to send their child off to other parents, foster parents. So why is it so wrong to say, you know what, I'm going to have an early abortion. I made a mistake. Both families agree that it's the right thing to do. Why are you saying that's the wrong decision?
I think we can have a plethora of children who are in that situation. I've heard Ben Carson make reference. I don't know that he was that situation, but people similar to Ben Carson who went on and accomplished terrific things in their life, and their mother was actually considering an abortion but didn't do it.
Totally understand, and you're right. You're right, Stephen. Hold on, let me just interject.
And I guess what I'll close with, what doesn't kill you, Brian, makes you stronger.
I understand that, but for every story that you just mentioned, and I have no doubt that there are stories out there where children could have been aborted. Instead, they became great people that have helped society. There are also plenty of stories out there of babies that were born, they were going to have an abortion, and that baby was born, and now that baby has grown up to be a criminal because they were raised by one mom or one parent in a horrible household when parents were not suited to be parents, and they were raised, and now they're in jail. So there's both sides to that equation.
Yeah, we don't know. And
no, we do know. No, we do know.
Should we allow the governor of Virginia to pass a law that says that the doctor can explain to the mother that the child is probably maybe not all there intellectually and going to have a lot of physical problems?
No, well,
in the decision making on whether to have an abortion, and then keep the child. Let me finish. And then keep the child alive for 3 days while they bid up the body parts on the child.
Well, here's what I would say to that, and I have to move on. But here's what I would say to that. I don't agree with that any more than I agree with what they tried to those idiots in Alabama tried to pass in forcing mothers to have a child if they're the victim of incest or rape. Yes, it goes both ways. There are extremes on both ends of the spectrum, but I think you said it best. It's not my decision. It's not your decision. It should always be the decision of the mother, the family, the father, and his family. It is a personal decision, just like religion, going back to religion. Religion is very personal. Nobody should tell you what religion is right or wrong. It is your personal decision. It is the reason why millions and millions of people have been murdered across the world, because they all believe that their religion is right and everybody else is wrong. Well, guess what? They're wrong. Believe what you want to believe. Don't push your beliefs out on me or anybody else. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, a local Oklahoma girls basketball team is speaking out after an announcer calls their names disgusting. We'll get to that coming up next. You're listening to The Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
Restrictions may apply. Plans and costs for coverage may vary. Call Protect My Car for details. In these hard economic times, you got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses could be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you do own a car, truck, or SUV made from 1999 or higher, you could stop paying for car repairs. That's right, you might not have to pay a penny to have it repaired. Just dial ** 1143 on your mobile phone now to see if you qualify. You must have an automobile made from 1999 or higher, and all repairs for your engine, transmission, and much more can become a thing of the past. Dial ** 1143 on your mobile phone today and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. That's right, total protection for your car and no more repair bills. Just dial ** 1143 on your mobile phone now to see if your car qualifies. That's ** 1143. Never pay for car repairs again. Just dial ** 1143 on your mobile phone now. Dial ** 1143.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with a sun protection factor, or SPF, of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. UVA rays age the skin, UVB rays burn, and both cause cancer. But the perfect sunscreen doesn't count if you use it wrong. Don't need sunscreen on a cloudy day? Wrong. 80% of UV rays still get through the haze. Only use sunscreen at the beach? Nope. Anytime you're outside, UV rays attack the skin, so you need protection. And you have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. A reminder, also broadcasting live on YouTube. Check us out, the Vegas Take page. Coming up here in just a few minutes, UNLV assistant coach Kevin Kruger. You might recognize that last name. His father is a Hall of Fame coach in Lon Kruger, also former UNLV coach. Well, it's senior night tonight, so plenty to get to as far as UNLV basketball and that big win against San Diego State. We'll get to Kevin coming up here in just a few minutes. Speaking of basketball, this is a story I had to bring up because it's just ridiculous. Members of an Oklahoma City area high school girls basketball team are now speaking out after they said an announcer made an offensive comment about their names Friday during a district championship game. It is unbelievable. Crooked Oak High School girls basketball team getting ready to take on Newkirk High School. This was for the district title when the announcer paused during the introduction and called the girls disgusting. We have the audio. Have a listen to this.
And the Crooked Oak Lady Westnet. Now, their names are pretty disgusting.
What?
Did he just say?
But I'm going to try to call him out.
No, he didn't. You say that.
No, he didn't. Yes, he did. Some of the girls commented after the game. They said, we were just kind of like, what? Did he really just say that? One of the players said, with adrenaline running high and nothing but winning on their minds, the girls united. They tried to black out the comments, they said. That's the culture of us now, overcoming adversity. I'm just amazed that this happened. On Saturday, the Newkirk Public School Superintendent Brady Barnes released a statement about the incident. She said, in around 20 years of announcing Newkirk games, this is the first time something like this has occurred. She said to the Newkirk and Crooked Oak communities at large, I would like to say that his unfortunate comment does not represent Newkirk Public Schools or its belief. They apologized. They said, we sincerely apologize for any pain or affront our announcers' comments have caused. And one player said a lot of people are calling it a mistake because he was an older man, so we'd like to say that if it was a mistake, you could have stopped at that very moment when you said it, or the school could have stopped him at that very moment and apologized. That is a very good point that one of those players said. And another player said you need to embrace your name because your name is truly something beautiful that you have. The team said that the announcer asked for pronunciations and went through their names correctly more than once before the game started. Listen, here's what I think happened here. I think this obviously was an older gentleman. I think when he used the term disgusting, I don't think he was describing physically the girls as being disgusting. I don't think that was his intent. What I do believe is he had trouble pronouncing their names. I think what he meant by using the term disgusting, what he should have said was these names are very difficult to read, but I'm going to do my best anyway. And I don't think anybody would have had a problem with that. I don't think anybody would have had an issue with that. But because he used the word disgusting, an older guy who used the wrong choice of words. Now listen, if he used the N-word or he used a racial slur or a homophobic slur or something like that, the guy should be fired and ban him from entering that school anytime. I don't think this guy deserves that, I'll be honest with you. I think he just used the wrong terminology. I don't think it had anything to do with the girls' looks or anything. It had to do with their names maybe being difficult to pronounce. And that's that. So for anybody out there who thinks that this guy deserves to be fired, for anybody out there that thinks he deserves to continue to be chastised after the school apologized, I think you're wrong. This is a perfect example of being oversensitized in today's times. I really feel that I'm going to take this guy's side on this one. I mean, if it was a men's basketball team and he said these words are disgusting, would it have this effect? Probably not. There are things you do to not go over the line, and then there are mistakes that you make. This guy made a mistake. I don't think he necessarily went over the line. I think it was a simple mistake. And listen, there's no question, in my personal opinion, that this had nothing to do with race. Now, I could be wrong on that. I know some of the women that were on this team are African American. I could be wrong, but I'm going to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. And I've talked to people that have to pronounce certain names in games, whether that be high school or college. I've talked to people like that, and a lot of them have problems pronouncing some names, and it's very difficult for them. And even they have made comments to me. I was a high school basketball official for 20 years, and even they made comments to me like, boy, these names are brutal. It had nothing to do personally with the people that were on the floor. They were just a little upset that they had to pronounce these names, and they were going to screw it up. So no, I don't think why would this have anything to do with race? I think it had everything to do with the fact that some of these girls' last names were very difficult to pronounce. And now we have a radio host that was suspended, and he was suspended for using the term midget on air. He called Baker Mayfield a midget. That's all. Is that derogatory towards little people? Well, I guess. Should somebody be suspended over using that word? It's absurd. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm sorry, folks. I don't get it. I don't get it. The talent on the land on demand, they were discussing quarterbacks on other teams during a break when Grossi chimed in, one of the announcers, and said, who do we got? An effing midget. And then the other announcer is kind of waving it off. No, because I guess he didn't know that he was on the air. And then the comment was, there's no excuse for using that language in any context. It was said without malice, but also without thought. All right, well, maybe it's not the best choice of words, but it's a perfect example and another example of how we are too sensitive as a society. There are certain things that are over the line, and then there are certain things that might be a little bit inappropriate. But should somebody really be suspended over that? Should somebody really lose their jobs for saying some of the last names of the girls are disgusting? Should somebody be suspended, a radio host, for calling Baker Mayfield a midget? I say no. I say there are certain things that you should and shouldn't say. It should never be about race. It should never be about gender. Nobody should ever tolerate, homophobics. Nobody should ever tolerate those sorts of things. And there are certain things that you say that I say I'm okay with an immediate fire. These aren't those things. Why are we so oversensitive as a society? Is it because of social media? Our president is the most oversensitive guy I've ever met in my life. God forbid anybody makes a comment about his hair or about his fake tan, his makeup, his body. He just goes off. He loses his mind. I just think there's something to say about that in our society today that is so oversensitized. This radio host should not be fired. This announcer at high school basketball games should not be hired, and I think we should leave it at that. All right, coming up next, UNLV assistant coach Kevin Kruger. Their big win on the road against San Diego State. And tonight, it's senior night at the Thomas & Mack Center. Kevin Kruger coming up next on the Vegas Take.
It's time to check the roads.
From the Lerner and Rowe Traffic Studio.
This report sponsored by your Southern Nevada Chevy dealer. A crash with injury sustained reported Centennial Center at Ann Road. Police and fire were the scene. Another injury crash at Boulder Highway at Flamingo still a factor. And a collision reported Rancho Drive southbound near the 95. Roadwork continues on Charleston both directions at Durango Drive. Celebrate President's Day at your Southern Nevada Chevy dealer and choose from great cashback or lease offers or even a low APR financing. Hurry to a Southern Nevada Chevy dealer and drive away in a new Chevrolet. John Michaels from the KDON Traffic Center.
If you're a man aged 45 to 80 with a history of heart disease or stroke, please listen closely to this message. Some men with a history of heart disease or stroke also have low testosterone levels, also known as hypogonadism. Symptoms of low testosterone, hypogonadism, include decreased sexual desire, fatigue, depressed mood, and loss of body hair. If you've had a heart attack or stroke in the past and experienced the symptoms of low testosterone, hypogonadism, please consider our research study that is underway in Las Vegas. Qualified participants may receive testosterone replacement therapy or placebo and study-related care at no cost, as well as compensation for their time. Please call now to speak with the Research Study Coordinator. Dial 702-534-5151. That number again is 702-534-5151. That's 702-534-5151.
Wheel of Fortune slots make more millionaires more often. Will you be next? Play Wheel of Fortune at your favorite casino today. Wheel of Fortune is a registered trademark of Califon Production Incorporated. All rights reserved.
Join Coach Harvey Hyde and Chuck Hayes Saturday evenings from 9 to 10 p.m. for Trojan Football Report, presented by South Point Hotel and Casino, here on 101.5 FM and 720 AM KDWN, where Las Vegas comes to talk.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. I was pretty excited about that win that UNLV had on the road against San Diego State, the number 4 team in the country. Certainly over the last decade, certainly the biggest win UNLV has had on the road. The only other huge win that I can recall in the last 10 years would probably be when Dave Rice took the program over after Lon Kruger left, and he beat the number 1 team in the country. But that was in Vegas. This was on the road, the number 4 ranked team in the country in their own conference. What an impressive win. And tonight is senior night. right? We want to honor the seniors that put the blood, sweat, and tears, for lack of a better term. And we want as many people to support this team as possible and be out there tonight. And it's a big game because it's against a good basketball team in Boise State. And joining us right now on the line, always love it when he takes some time to join us. Of course, he's a former Rebel himself. He helped lead the UNLV team to a Sweet 16. His father, Lon Kruger, a legend. And he is an assistant coach now under T.J. Otzelberger. That would be Kevin Kruger joining us right now on the line. Kevin, thanks for coming on, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. So, Kevin, I got to ask you, let's start with the San Diego State game. I would imagine going into this game, a lot of the players are saying, look, we got nothing to lose. Let's just go out there and we got a great game plan and let's do it. Were you even a little surprised at how well UNLV was able to execute, especially on the defensive end? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we guarded them pretty well here in Vegas, so we weren't struggling in confidence in that aspect. But obviously, a very good defensive team, and we hit a little bit of a tough stretch here, tied at 45 all, where they had a few buckets and kind of got enough of space between us to end up winning the game. But we felt confident that we could guard them. We felt good about our approach going in and our preparation in the days leading up. So I think that's where kind of the confidence started and the ability to kind of start feeling that we were going to win.
How important was it to have seniors on the floor like Dimitri Long, a guy who made some big shots down the stretch? You had a lot of guys that were huge in that game, but I thought Long, when he hit that shot from about 5 or 6 feet out with a couple minutes left to go in the game, and it was like a floater, I thought that was a huge moment. What would you say about his play and what he was able to do down the stretch?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we scored. We had a field goal with 10.5 minutes left maybe, and then Eli's, runner with 2.5, and those were the last 2 buckets we scored in the game. Yeah. So, that just, you win based with your defense, especially in road games, conference in February, you got to stop the other team. That's what those guys went out and did.
Do you think San Diego State is a legitimate top 5 team in the country?
I think so, because they guard the ball so well, and they just guard people, and especially when you get into March and you get into the NCAA tournament and the physicality turns up. Right. Then if you can keep people from scoring, that you're going to have a good chance. I mean, that's why there's certain teams that come the NCAA tournament, regardless of the draw or the regular season they've had, if they're good defensive teams, they typically win a game or 2.
So, Kevin, I have to ask you this. I know your father is busy with his own team and has a busy schedule, but did you get a chance to talk to him? Did he give you a call after that game or that night or the next day? Because I'm sure he was pretty proud of what UNLV was able to accomplish.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's been our biggest fan, all season. And, I mean, we still talk almost every day. So whether or not there's a game doesn't really change it. Just kind of change what we talk about.
Sure. Sure. That's great.
Yeah, he called and, being, a couple hours ahead, he still stays up and watches us when he can, and we just talk every day pretty much. But yeah, he was particularly excited about that one.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. If you're just joining us, we're speaking with Kevin Kruger, assistant coach UNLV basketball, talking about the big win. We'll get to the game tonight in a second. Kevin, you guys are 7th preseason in the Mountain West Conference, and I know you guys don't really pay much attention to that, and you shouldn't, quite frankly. You just got to focus on what's ahead of you and focus in practice. But now you see yourself, I believe you're 5th right now. One game changes pretty much everything. Talk about where you're at right now, how huge that game was to get that type of resume win under your belt. Because I know you guys defeated Utah State. You've had some good wins this year, but nothing even close to what transpired the other day. How huge was that just for the resume builder? And how do you feel about where you're at in the standings right now?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I haven't really paid much attention to the standings because so much can still change with the last 2 games. But, the preseason stuff is what it is. It's just a talking point. It really means nothing. And, so we don't really pay much attention to that other than just kind of sit around and talk about it. But, we wanted to be playing our best basketball come March and come the tournament here in the Thomas and Mack. And that game and that win Saturday really just kind of is a sign that we've got the ability to still be playing our best basketball.
I know this is not in your mind right now, but it's my job. I have to ask it. With the win the other day, assuming that you guys could at minimum get to the semifinals, and I know this is hypothetical, but the semifinals of the Mountain West Conference Tournament, I would think that you guys are an NIT team. If you did get an invite to the NIT, if things go as you would hope they would go, in the next few weeks. Is that something that you guys have talked about at all, and something that you would be willing to do to play in the NIT?
No, we haven't discussed it. I mean, I hope so, though. Anytime you can play in the postseason now with the number of good basketball teams there are in the country, it's really an honor. And, so the ability to keep playing and then play for a championship of any kind would be special.
Sure, no question. All right, so let's focus on tonight, Kevin. I know that's what's on your mind, the coaching staff and the players, so let's talk about that. After a big win, like the San Diego State team, San Diego State wins, sometimes teams have a lull after being on an emotional high. Is that a concern tonight at all with your team? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's just something we've talked to them about. The reason they went in and won at San Diego State was because of their preparation. And the 2 days and the 3 days leading up to the game, they were where they needed to be mentally and took care of their bodies and did everything they needed to do. So we've really just been harping on them about preparing the same way because really that's what got it done is their focus and their attention to detail so that when we went out in the game and executed things, that didn't come as a surprise because that's what they had been talking about and going through for the last few days.
So let's talk about the scouting report of this Boise State team. We all know how good Derek Alston is. He kind of lit you guys up when you were at Boise, but yet you guys were still in that game, right? You had a great opportunity to win that game in Boise, which is a very difficult place to play. You were competitive. They got some good players. Talk about Alston. Talk about Jessup, who was a killer from the three-point line. What are some of the challenges that you're going to face tonight? And talk a little bit about the tempo. I don't expect you to give the entire game plan, Kevin. We wouldn't want you to do that. But give me the scouting report on Boise State. What are the type of things that you guys have to do to get the W tonight?
Well, yeah, I mean, Alston, Jessup, the energy that Williams plays with, all definitely keys to the game tonight from our end. We've got to make sure we're guarding Alston and Jessup with the mentality that they're going to try to score every time. And we've got to bother them and do our best to make them earn every basket. And that's really just been the focus the last couple of days, knowing who you're guarding, knowing what they want to do, and just really just doing everything you can to just make them earn every basket because the way they play offensively, they got a lot of sets. They run them really well. They share the ball. So just making them earn everything, nothing easy, and has really been our focus.
I would imagine you've watched a lot of the tape, not just of Boise State, whoever they're playing, but the tape when you guys played them about a month and a half ago. When you look at that game and you look at where this team is at now, what are some of the things that you want to do better, some of the things you did well in that game, and some of the things tonight that you need to do better?
Well, I think what Boise did really well was kind of we were just kind of short, just kind of a half step slow, really, to what we had kind of gone in from a game plan perspective. And they kind of got us out of rhythm a little bit with Alston playing the way he did in the first half, and then Jessup in the second. And so that's just kind of one of the things we've been talking about. And really, I know it sounds simple, but that's one of the reasons that you kind of stick to what you talk about because
Sure.
You don't want to overcomplicate it and really just kind of go from there.
No question. I have to ask you about senior night because, of course, this is senior night. It's such an important night for those seniors and their families that are going to be in attendance tonight. Can you talk to me a little bit about what you remember from senior night at the Thomas and Mack Center years back when your father was coaching that team, and that was a great team. We all remember that Sweet 16 team. What do you remember about that night personally that was special to you on that senior night in Las Vegas when you were playing?
I remember it was a whiteout. I do remember that, and just like it is tonight, it's supposed to wear white. And I remember going out there to shoot, and I just remember being really early. It was just for being the last home game, there's just a little more anticipation and a little more excitement than maybe a regular game at the beginning of February. But so I just remember going out there really early, and I just remember there being a buzz in the air and being a bunch of fans there, and kind of getting there early and getting kind of ready for the senior night. And I remember we played Colorado State, and we ended up winning and then playing them again in the conference tournament. But no, it was a great night. Great group of guys, and it's just fun to kind of have one of those nights as a senior.
No question. We want to get as many people as possible in the Thomas and Mack Center. I know I'll be there tonight, no question. Kevin, can you briefly, before we let you go, just talk about the seniors that are going to be honored tonight? Maybe talk a little bit about their character and honoring them?
Well, yeah, I mean, with Vitaly Shibel and Eli Long, two guys that came as grad transfers, sometimes it can be tough. And, we've obviously gone through our ups and downs this season, but I think, those two guys have done a great job. Eli had a little bit of a step back with his thumb, and then Vitaly kind of took him a little while to get going, but, didn't play a whole lot early on, but his confidence has grown throughout the year. And I think if you asked either one of them, they'd be, happy with their decision and, really excited about tonight. And then obviously Nick Blair being a hometown kid, it's always special to play for the Rebels, especially, being a local. But, a good group of guys. I think they'll stick around, be part of the Legends Association once they leave. And obviously Vegas being the city that it is, it's exciting to come back to. But then on top of that, when you're a running Rebel, that it just makes it that much better.
No question. Kevin, last question for you, and it might be a difficult question for you to answer because I know the focus is tonight and what's ahead of you. But if we're talking to you a month from now, we ask you, what would be a successful end to the season and what would be unsuccessful? Again, I know that might be a difficult question for you to answer. What looks like a successful end of the season to you, and what looks like a season that maybe you underachieved? What would you say to that?
I'm not really sure at this point. There would be too many scenarios where we would consider it, underachieving or be unhappy with, because I think, like we've kind of talked about, just getting better, just continually getting better and playing our best basketball toward the end of the season. So I think regardless of how the season finishes up, if we can look back and say we continually got better,
right,
and guys individually continually got better, I think that would be kind of a success.
And I couldn't agree with you more, Kevin, because, not to talk about past coaches, but, there have been some seasons before TJ and his staff got here, before you got here, where you could look back at some seasons and say, I'm not sure they got better. I don't think there's any question, Kevin, when you look at the start of the season and the first month you guys had and how Coach Otzelberger and you guys held players accountable and how much better basketball and the effort is there compared to the first month, right? There's no question that you guys have gotten tremendously better, certainly from an effort standpoint and defensively, right? I'm sure you would agree with that.
No, absolutely. I think, I know, Ken Palm is a stat that's used by a lot of people, and it's a great gauge of kind of the movement you make throughout a season, and that supports that theory as well. But yeah, I think that's just the goal of everything. I mean, obviously not just basketball, but pretty much anything you do, any business you're in, is just to continually get better. And like you said, I think the strides we've made from November to this point would definitely suggest that.
And there is no doubt that your father's made a career out of that as well. He's so good at making teams better from start to the end of the year. And I think your Sweet 16 team here in UNLV is a perfect example of that. Kevin, yourself and TJ and the coaching staff, you guys really have done a really good job, and look forward to the game tonight. Go kick some butt, my man, and I really do appreciate you taking some time to join us. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Anytime.
Thank you. There you go. That is Kevin Kruger. Always appreciate it when he comes on this show. God, I love that family. I really do. I love the Kruger family. Kevin's a class act. His father, Lon, I'm not sure I've heard anybody ever say anything negative about Lon Kruger. Such a great guy, such a great family. And they come in every year and do this Coaches for Cancer event where they raise so much money for cancer research. And look, I'm going to be honest here, folks. I call it for what it is when it comes to UNLV. Sometimes people don't like me for that. In fact, I could give you some of the personal relationships I have with people in this town have been tarnished because I am always honest about anything on the air, whether it's UNLV basketball, UNLV football, or anything, politics, you name it. I have been openly shown criticism for Marvin Menzies. I'm glad he's not the coach here anymore. Didn't like the guy on a personal level and as a basketball coach. Dave Rice, the opposite. I liked him. Great guy. Didn't get it done here as a head coach with the talent that he had. But I'm going to tell you right now, and I've said this over the course of the last month or so, last few months actually, TJ Otzelberger and his coaching staff, he's held players accountable. Now, what do I mean by that? A month into the season, it wasn't looking very good. It was not looking good. But what did TJ Otzelberger do? He held players accountable. He sat players. He suspended at least one player. He moved the starting lineup around. And it paid dividends for this team because now the effort is there, and it has been there since he did that. They are a different team now than they were the first month of the season, and that's what Kevin alluded to. It's about making teams better. There is no question this UNLV basketball team is better now than it was a few months ago. No question. That's what coaching is all about, and TJ's done a good job. The coaching staff has done a good job, and I've openly given him positive credit for that, and that was a huge win a few days ago. Now, with that being said, you cannot lose in the first round of the Mountain West Conference tournament. You just can't. whether they have a bye or not. You can't lose in the quarterfinals. Get to the semifinals on your home court. It is your home court for all intents and purposes. If you can get to the semifinals of the Mountain West Conference tournament, there's going to be nothing embarrassing about losing to San Diego State or Utah State. There's going to be nothing embarrassing losing to those two teams. But you don't want to lose in the quarterfinals to a team like an Air Force, San Jose State. I don't think they're going to play San Jose State. You don't want to lose to a New Mexico team. You don't want to lose to a team that's maybe fourth and you're ranked fifth. That's the game you got to get. You got to get that quarterfinal game. Now, obviously, this game tonight is very important. Why, you ask? Because the top four teams, if I'm not mistaken, it might be the top five, so don't quote me on this. It's either the top four or the top five. I know they get a bye in the first round. I think it's the top five. But you want to win this game tonight because it has huge, huge implications on your seeding in the Mountain West Conference tournament because it's so congested from the team that's second or third to the team that's fifth right now. I think one game separates all those teams. So you have to win tonight, and it's not going to be easy because Boise State is one of those teams that's ahead of you, and Boise State is a good basketball team. Now, UNLV's favored by a bucket or two. I think they're like -3. So the bookmakers agree. This is going to be a close, competitive game, and I think it will be. But to me, the key to the game is Derek Alston. And if you don't know who Derek Alston is, he's one of the best players in the Mountain West Conference. He's their guard. He's extremely tall and agile. He can shoot the three. He can take the ball to the basket. His father played in the NBA, and you'll see why, because he shares a lot of the same athletic ability that his father once had. If Derek Alston goes nuts like he did in Boise and he scores 25 or 30, UNLV's not going to win this game. Because if it's one thing that UNLV struggles with consistently, it's scoring against good teams. And San Diego State, they were very fortunate to win that game because, as he said, the final 10 minutes of that game, they only had 2 field goals. And yet they still found a way to win. The key is Derek Alston. You don't want this game to get into the 70s or the 80s. If it does, UNLV's in a lot of trouble. This is going to be a fun game tonight. It's going to be an entertaining game tonight. Please pack the MAC. We want as many people as possible in there to support this team. For God's sakes, man, they deserve it. The coaching staff and the players deserve it. They worked their tails off, and they made national news just beating San Diego State. I'll tell you something I'd be concerned about tonight. It's when you beat a team like San Diego State and you're on that emotional high, can you bring it the next game? We see it all the time in sports. You come from an emotional high and you get that emotional low. I hate to say it, but I think UNLV could be in some trouble tonight. But we'll see what happens, and we'll certainly cover the game, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. It's going to be fun. It's 8 p.m. It's on national television. If you can make it to the MAC tonight, do it. Prices are very affordable and reasonable, and we appreciate Kevin Kruger taking some time to join us. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it's our producer's favorite segment of the show. It's called Hate Mail, and we'll bring it to you coming up next. You're listening to the Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.
This is a cow whose milk became everyone's favorite cheese at the craft fair. But cheese only lasts so long. The impression a small business makes needs to last much longer. And now Vistaprint is offering free shipping on all business cards in any quantity. Choose from hundreds of fresh designs tailored to your type of company. Or upload your own. The choice is yours. The time is now. For a limited time only, get free shipping on all business cards in any quantity with promo code 4949. That's promo code 4949 at Vistaprint.com. Vistaprint. Own the now.
Are you looking for senior care for your mom or dad but don't know where to start? Hi, I'm Jen London with The Place for Mom. Nobody knows your parent or loved one better than you, and nobody knows senior living better than the experts at A Place for Mom. It's a free service, and we've helped thousands of families find the right place for their mom or dad. There's a place for answers, a place for mom. Call today.
Call A Place for Mom at 1-800-391-1755. That's 1-800-391-1755.
When a counselor asked how much my husband drinks, I said, not that much. I don't know why I said that. He always drank too much. But I guess I'm so used to keeping it a secret that I didn't tell the truth to myself or anyone else. My husband has drinks with friends after work. He has a couple of drinks at home with dinner and a few more while we watch TV. Pretty soon he's shouting at me and blaming me for all of his problems. I just can't take it anymore. A counselor recommended Al-Anon family groups. She said Al-Anon members have had experiences just like mine, and they would explain how Al-Anon is helping them. I didn't want to go to Al-Anon, but I'm sure glad I did. Is someone's drinking breaking your heart? You might be surprised at what you can learn at an Al-Anon family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-AL-ANON or go to alanon.org. Imagine crossing a street busy with traffic, against the light,
Watch where you're going.
wearing a blindfold. Would you do this? Probably not. It's one risk obviously not worth taking. Some risks aren't as obvious, yet could be just as deadly, like the risk for type 2 diabetes. If you're overweight or over 45, if you're not very active, or don't eat as healthy as you should, there's an easy test you can take to find out your risk. It's free, and in less than a minute, you'll know if you're at risk for this deadly disease. Just go to diabetes.org/take-the-test or call 1-800-DIABETES. Because type 2 diabetes is one risk you can't afford to take. Take the diabetes risk test and stop diabetes before it stops you. A message from the American Diabetes Association.
Mark Levin, weekdays 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Now back to the Vegas Take on 1015 FM, 720 AM, KDON.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. I'm getting an earful because my body language shows that I'm arrogant by my producer, Jason Stein. So I said to him, if I'm grabbing my crotch, what does that mean? Does that mean I'm attracted to you when we're having a conversation? Is that what that means, Stein?
I don't like looking into someone's face who's got sunglasses on. I can't see their eyes. I don't trust them.
Well, you shouldn't trust me.
I think a lot of people feel that
Listen,
way.
you shouldn't trust me, but trust me, it has nothing to do. I just said, double entendre there. It has nothing to do with whether I'm wearing sunglasses or not. Okay, why do you think people wear sunglasses at the poker table? They don't want people looking at their eyes. Anyway, let's stop wasting time talking about
this. Just like the poker table. Let's have some listeners attack you on my behalf.
Go ahead.
It's time for hate mail. And these are the comments that scroll along the side of our YouTube page.
I can't wait.
Hi, how are you guys? I played Hide the Kielbasa this morning with my new neighbor. Have you played that, Brian?
I've never played Hide the Kielbasa before, but I have... well, wait a second. No, I did play that. I played that with this gentleman's mother, I believe. Okay, go ahead, Stein.
Christopher writes, what is that buffoon Brian wearing on his shiny bald head?
Well, first of all, how does he know my head is shiny and bald? Because he doesn't know whether I shaved or not because I'm wearing a hat.
Brian, you have the most absolutely annoying, whiny voice I've ever heard. That's a recurring comment on the show.
So my question is, if it's the most annoying, whiny voice you've ever heard, then why do you listen to it every day, and why do you care to comment on it? Get a life, loser.
Dana writes, Brian, you remind me of my second husband, and I hate my second ex-husband.
Well, geez, I wonder why this woman I wonder why this woman has all these ex-husbands. Probably because it couldn't stand her. That's probably why. Couldn't take her.
That same person, Dana writes, I glued my ex's balls to his chest. If Brian had balls, I would do the same.
Not a surprise that this woman is talking about male genitalia. She sounds like she's very horny and single.
Well,
Stein, you should go after her.
Talking about regular balls.
Yeah, you should go after her. Okay. She's ready to go, man.
Yeah, that sounds real good. Someone who glues their ex's balls to the chest.
It might be her balls.
That's the woman for me.
You don't know that. It might be her balls. She might be transitioning.
Another
you don't
person
know.
writes, Brian, you will have to find a safe place after Trump wins. The Dems are a joke just like you.
Well, first of all, Donald Trump won in 2016, and I haven't found a safe place, quote unquote. I'm doing a radio show. In fact, he's helped my radio show, and it's now 2020. So I've been doing this for 4 years. If he's reelected in 2020, what would make you think that that would change? It's probably the most idiotic thing I've ever heard in my life. And as far as being a Democrat goes, I have voted for Mitt Romney. I didn't vote for Barack Obama. I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. But idiots like that assume that I'm a Democrat because I don't like their lover boy, the very attractive and lavish-looking Donald Trump.
Captain Safety, I like this. This is creative that he took the time to do this. You can't spell Brian Shapiro without no hair. And they actually figured out that the words no hair are in your first and last name.
What is this gentleman's name? What is this gentleman's name?
Captain Safety.
You can't spell Captain Safety without spelling the word loser. Get out of your mom's basement. Get a job. Find something else to do, my friend. I'm going to pray for you, as Pete Buttigieg's brother-in-law would say. I'm going to pray for you, sir.
This program is a mess. What are you guys doing?
Well, if it's a mess, then why are you watching it? I mean, I go back to, I don't like the Kardashians. You don't see me commenting on their Kardashian page. You don't see me watching the Kardashian show every night. If I think a show is a mess, I don't watch it. And by the way, some shows are a mess, and they're entertaining. I grew up watching the Howard
Well,
Stern
yeah,
show.
it's called, you know, people enjoy it, train wreck. So I could see where someone would enjoy watching a train wreck.
Okay, fair
if
enough.
that's how you feel.
So thank you for the compliment, sir. We appreciate it.
Sam writes, hey, where's JD? He must be taking a massive dump.
That's a good guess. That was
so
good.
that's someone who listens to the show. That's someone who knows that usually when JD's not here, he just didn't come in for the day.
Let me tell you
or
something.
he's in the bathroom.
Beasley Broadcasting is eventually going to charge us for toilet paper because of JD.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, I can always walk past and I see the light is on in there. I can see the crack under the door. There's a light. I know it's JD.
Who do we got tomorrow, by the way? Any good guess? What's on tap?
Well, we got our Dirty Dining segment. But
that's right.
Do we have time?
Mike Babcock. We got to go. Mike Babcock.
Oh, I got some good ones here.
Well, she said 30 seconds. We got to go. Mike Babcock from TMZ Sports will be joining us tomorrow. It's our Dirty Dining segment tomorrow, ABC 13's very own. So we will cover all that tomorrow. We'll have more for you. Sean Hannity coming up next.
Your home for Sean Hannity. KDWN Las Vegas, KKLZ HD2 Las Vegas, a Beasley Media Group station.